Hello, everyone. I'm the person who made the page. Okay, so we have a Michael Jordan fan who wants to go on. He's from YouTube. He goes by the YouTube username of Michael Carrig. He has Michael Jordan as the number one NBA player of all time, and he would like to explain why Michael Jordan is the number one NBA player of all time. So let me put him on. Hey, welcome to the program.
Hi. Yes, I do believe Michael Jordan is the greatest player of all time. I've been a Michael Jordan fan for a long time, since I was a child. I actually got to see him play in the finals against the Trailblazers and against the Sonics. I was too young to remember when I was at the Trailblazers game, but also got to see some other games at the old United Center. But I don't see this as a particularly controversial take to say that Michael Jordan is the greatest player of all time. But since you have a show about it and you seem to need that argument made, I am more than willing to make that argument.
Sure, great. And it is controversial because many reasons, but just to keep it simple, there is no fact to prove he's the greatest, and there's no logic, there's no reason, there's no common sense. And even if you disagree, which I'm sure you will, there's a lot of contradictions that people have when they make the claim that he's the greatest. They have inconsistencies, they move the goalpost, they cherry pick things, but we'll get into it. Okay, so you have Michael Jordan as the number one NBA player of all time. Please feel free to explain if you like.
Okay, well, I would like to make a caveat before we begin with how you presented that information, which is absolutely true. Like, the idea of greatness or being the best is extremely relative. It is abstract, right? These are human concepts determined by human discourse. And what are we ultimately analyzing? We're analyzing what we see. We're analyzing the document of what we see in the form of statistics. We're also analyzing the historical record, right? So we're moving past things that actually happen on the court, and we are talking about effect on basketball.
So just
the greatness of doing
a lot to unpack here. So you are right if you're basically saying, and I know you're not saying this like this, but I'm just summarizing, that a lot of people are going by what they want to go by. That part is true, but a lot of things that they go by, they shouldn't be going by, and even if you say I'm wrong and the things they go by are legit, they're going to have lots of inconsistencies. They're going to have contradictions. They're going to be hypocrites. They're going to move the goalpost. There's a lot of problems with their takes. And also, just so you know, you really shouldn't be going by whatever you want. You should be going by the truth, what is actually there. Of course, you can go by logic, reason, and common sense, but facts should be the number one thing.
There's no, I'm not entirely clear on the distinction, but what I will say is that you can make facts to compose any subjective argument about a basketball player. Ultimately, what is produced is consensus, right? Now, if that consensus is logical or not logical, that is another question. And it may be that the argument about Michael Jordan is an illogical consensus. But my personal views, which are not going to be self-saying with how people argue Michael Jordan generally, as that consensus actually has no form.
Well, now, when you say people can, basically you're saying people can play with numbers. Like there's a saying that said something like, liars do figure, but the figures don't lie. So I get the logic that people can play with numbers, but in this case, just like many other cases, you don't have to play with numbers. You can actually go by facts. And by the way, Michael Jordan fans play with facts. They play with numbers.
Oh, I would just say any fan making an argument about any player being the best is going to play some games with both language and with numbers.
That's true, but not everyone does it as many times as Michael Jordan fans do it. And
you can talk to a LeBron fan. Ultimately,
they're Michael Jordan fans too.
the Kareem fans are a bit too old to be participating in this online discourse.
Well,
But
you just
were
made
they
up that. You just
there?
made that up.
Okay. Are you saying that people of the age to have actually watched Kareem are online at the same rate as people who have actually seen LeBron James, or even have seen full videos?
Well,
right? Like all of Michael Jordan. Hold on one second. I understand that
you said a lot of things.
Want your point, but just let me let me complete this one point.
Sure.
That the available. Let me reframe that.
All right.
Are you saying that there is the same amount of content, right, to refer to when analyzing LeBron James or Michael Jordan, two relatively recent players, as there is for any other player before nationally televised basketball games were recorded and put online?
I totally got your question a few seconds back, and it's the same thing. Now that you explained it all the way through, it's the same. I already got your question. Your question was actually a little unfair, because earlier you weren't saying that they don't do it as much. You were saying something like, I don't have the exact words, don't quote me, but you said something like, they're too old to be doing this. And you were questioning if they're actually doing this. And I was trying to show you that they are doing this. Now, if your question is, do they do it as much? I have no way to...
no, obviously that was a generalization. I mean,
I was following up to that.
To be forming a body on the internet, right, that is having these battles on forums, in the YouTube comment sections, etc. Like, obviously the people do exist, right? It was a turn of phrase. But anyway, I think we agree that yes, these arguments are largely subjective, but you believe that there is actual truth.
No, we don't. No, we don't agree.
I didn't finish. Okay, so
no, but you didn't finish. But I'm telling you, no, you didn't finish. But I'm telling you, we don't agree. You said something earlier. I want to address that. We don't agree.
So you believe that there is a factual greatest player?
No, I don't. But before we get into this, there were some other things you said earlier that I was waiting to get into. That we're still on the topic about age groups and who's doing it the most, and we're still on the topic of LeBron James fans do it too. We didn't finish those. I was trying to let you finish. Let's go back to those. A lot of LeBron James fans who do these things, you're right, they do it. But they're not actually LeBron James fans. They're Michael Jordan fans. And I'll prove that to you in a second. I'll prove that to you. Well, before you laugh, you should know the information before you laugh. But before I prove that to you...
No, I'd love to hear proof.
Sure. And then the other thing about who does it, the age group, do they do it the most and all that, I have no way to know for sure which age groups do it the most. But if you want me to guess, I'll take a guess. The people who usually spend a lot of time online because they don't need their parents' permission, because they're bored at work, because they're tired from dealing with stress and all that, is not going to be an 11-year-old. It's going to be someone older. In fact,
But that's not what I was saying. I was not saying it's 11-year-olds or 16-year-olds or 18-year-olds.
Well, you were saying older people,
Just
right?
Just to be clear. I'm talking about people who would have seen Kareem Abdul-Jabbar play live in Milwaukee. Like, that is getting considerably older than 40.
Well, what was your answer for 10? What was your answer for 11 years ago, or 14 years ago, or 18 years ago, and so on? The internet's been around for a long time.
Yes, but like the amount of time that we've had a collectivized video sharing service that has a large majority of the games that certain players have played on there, or at least edited versions of them, is a lot shorter.
Okay, so two things. So one, if the internet has been around for a while, and you know people have been debating for a while, including these older people who were younger years ago, you have to acknowledge that, hey, no matter what your age group is, in general, I'm not saying literally, because if you're 100 years old, you're probably not going to be online debating about Michael Jordan and all that. But in general, people of all different age groups were doing this. And two, if you're going to say, well, look, the older people, they weren't, were they around and all that? You have a contradiction there, because were you around for every Hall of Famer who ever played in the NBA? No. But you've determined Michael Jordan is the number one NBA player of all time.
But I never said that. You're extrapolating. I never said that.
Up to what
No. You're extrapolating. I never
I'm
said
not.
that someone has to have seen all of a player's games or has to have seen them live.
I never
to
said you
make
said
the
that.
argument.
I never said you said that.
What I am saying, however, is that there is an association with personal experience and the tendency to make such argument.
I agree.
So those are two different things.
And I told you earlier. No, I agree. But I told you earlier. Just I don't have the exact words again. But I'm saying basically, just because they do these things doesn't mean they're factually right. And anyway, even if I'm wrong and they're factually right, they're going to have a lot of inconsistencies. They're going to have a lot of goalpost moving. They're going to have a lot of contradictions. And there's more examples, but you get the point.
And as I said earlier, like this consensus can be non-factual, right? It can be wrong.
No, yeah,
so,
it is wrong.
Like, I know you're sure of that,
100%.
but that's a different story, right?
No, I know.
So yeah,
you can make the case.
I think we're on the same page.
Yeah, no, we're on the same page.
You believe both that there isn't a greatest, which I think is a reasonable argument, and that this can be proved through facts.
Okay, great. And remember, there's also the consistency part. So even if I'm wrong and they're right, if let's say they have the facts to prove it or they don't, whatever you think, then they are going to have inconsistencies, cherry picking, moving the goalpost, and so on. By the way, to the LeBron James fan thing, if you like, I can tell you why they're Michael Jordan fans if you want.
Yes, I would love to hear
Okay,
this.
sure. Let's put it all together. Michael Jordan fans, the majority of NBA fans, no matter who they like, the majority pick Michael Jordan as the greatest. That's one argument, the percentage of most fans. Number two, most of these people who you call LeBron James fans go by rings. They go by finals MVPs. They think that the NBA in the 1980s and 1990s, some of them, not all of them, was the best era, and everything before that was garbage. And they also, even if they pick LeBron James as the greatest, guess who they have as number two? Michael Jordan. Really, the only difference between a Michael Jordan fan and a LeBron James fan, the only difference is some pick Michael Jordan number one and LeBron James number two, or some of them even pick LeBron James number one or Michael Jordan number two. It just depends. But it's always one of those guys. Some of them will say, oh, it's 1 and 1A, or you know what? It's one of those. It's got to be one of those guys. I can't tell you how many times somebody...
I understand what you're saying. I agree with the first point.
Okay.
The statistical point makes sense.
Okay.
The last point, that there is a tendency for those two to be ranked number two, one or two, is also true.
But just real quick, remember earlier you were saying, let me finish my point when you said a lot? Let me do the same thing with you now. Let me finish my point even though I said a lot. I can't tell you how many times a person online would say to me or to say to someone else, or maybe they're saying on a radio program or in a TV program, whatever, where they have this mindset that if you don't pick Michael Jordan as a number one NBA player of all time, you must pick LeBron James as a number one NBA player of all time. And they will assume that if you don't pick Michael Jordan, they'll take it a step further. Oh, you must be a LeBron sexual. You must be a LaFlop fan. You must be a La36 fan, and so on. It's this mindset that's got to be one of them. This is what I'm saying to you, that when you put it all together, they are the same people, and more, if you want more details, they are Michael Jordan fans. No one else does these things.
It's an okay argument. The first part of it is the most concrete, which is that Jordan is statistically picked the most as the best. LeBron is statistically most picked as second now. If you were to go back a bit of time, there would have been
I don't even know if that's true.
I'm going by the polls that I see every day on YouTube. That's it. Beyond that, I won't claim.
No, there's no consistent polling that shows LeBron James as number two. In fact, he's probably one of the most hated, if not the most hated, when it comes to NBA NBA legends who are going to be. He's not a Hall of Famer yet.
Now we're both just abstracting, but I will get back to the middle thing that you said.
I missed what you said.
We're both abstracting. But I will get back to the middle thing.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
That I am saying that the polls that I've seen do this, and you're saying that there is no general consensus. Like, neither of us are bringing any real evidence here. So
no, I could give you. No, you can't say I'm not bringing evidence. I haven't even gotten into it. I can show you the evidence if you want.
that people do not say that LeBron James is the second best? Should we just go and find lists?
No. That they're consistently saying that. There are polls where he can come in number 2. As I've told you, many people pick him number 2 if they don't pick Michael Jordan, but it's not consistent. The only consistency with Michael Jordan and LeBron James is it's consistent that Michael Jordan is the number 1 NBA player of all time. I can even show you my polls, which I've done on my main NBA page. Hardly anyone picks LeBron James after Michael Jordan, and not only that, but they hate on him.
What is this? What is the sample size? What is the makeup of your audience?
Sure. I'll tell you. Good questions. Very fair questions. My main page has had over 20 million clicks. I had polling that on average will have between 2,000 to 4,000 every 2 days. 2,000 to 4,000 every 2 days. And it's an NBA page, not centered around one player. It's just basically different interviews with different legends. And I've had people write in comment sections. I'm not talking about 1 or 2 or 3. A lot of people write, LeBron James not even top 11. He's not even top 20. He's not even top 30, and so on. They hate on him.
Okay, so do you believe that those statements represent rational votes?
Rational, no. But if you ask me, do they represent a lot of people's takes? Yes.
Okay. I mean, I would question these 2,000 to 4,000 people, but I cannot do that. So I'll just take your word for it. LeBron James is
why would you question
polling.
Why would you question that? I don't understand.
What? Why would I question what?
Why would you question that?
Question your information? Because I don't have it. Because I can't see a data set.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure, because I could have taken that. There was 2 ways to take that. Either you were saying, I don't know if that's true, or I believe you it's true, but I question if that's a good enough example. So you just don't know if it's true, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. Fair enough. I got no problem.
No, the latter. I don't know if that's I mean, it's a combination of both, right? Like if there was a rigorous study, a polling done that differentiated its categories and data sets, that would be like something very clear that I would just say, okay, I can largely accept that because all statistics is fallible, or most statistics is fallible.
I disagree.
But, I mean, humans are creating how the questions are asked.
That's true.
So, but I feel like we're going off in
No, we're literally going over. Remember, if you don't agree or you're questioning things, then let's follow up to that. So let's go step by step here. You don't have to agree. I want to see where the disconnect is. If there's a YouTube page that has over 20 million clicks, and it's a page that's been there for about 2 years, pretty good for 20 million for 2 years, and I have polling after polling after polling after polling. It's not like one day or one poll, and in 1 or 2 days, I'll get an average between 2,000 to 4,000 people voting. And forget my page. Throw my page out the window. There's plenty of other places online and on the radio and on TV and so on where people constantly say LeBron James sucks. He plays in a weak era. He's not even top 11 and so on.
Can we break this into 2 things?
Sure.
So the answer to the first question is I would have to see things like how many unique viewers, like where are these viewers from? Like,
how would you
is there any specific geographical organization?
How would you even get that information?
If it was a study, I cannot. So that is why I'm assuming what you're saying is true.
No, but by your logic, you can't trust any poll.
No, I mean like real polling, like online. Because from my experience, like empirically, I've seen many polls on YouTube that range from a couple hundred people to a couple thousand people, where it says who's the greatest player of all time, and you'll see Michael Jordan at 80%, LeBron at 15, and then somebody else gets 5, right? And that may be exaggeration about the actual numbers, but I've seen that frequently. What you're asking me is, in comparison to these specific polls with these 20 million people, I don't know if those are 20 million separate people or if those are viewers,
I'll tell you why it wouldn't matter. I'll tell you why it wouldn't matter, because you don't base your information off of one poll. You go by a number of polls. Like when they had the presidential races, they don't say, here's what Fox News poll says, and that's it, everybody, good night. They go off of a number of polls over time from different places, like you said, sample size. So we have no
disagreement here. All I'm saying is that because of my experience with polls, having seen polls that say otherwise,
I got you.
That,
no, I got you.
The best that I can do,
no, I understand.
Is say that you have a large enough sample size, and I will trust that sample size.
I understand. But hang on. But if you're going to say, look, I don't have your page in front of me, I can't take your word for it, I don't know the information, then I would have no problem with any of that. But you took it a step.
I do have your page in front of me. I do take your word for it. Okay. So let's.
Well, earlier you made it seem like you didn't. But okay, if you do, that's great.
No.
So if you take my word for it, what's the disagreement?
What's the disagreement? As I said, we are largely in agreement here. I was trying to explain why I don't think that one poll specifically can give a fixed answer.
I agree.
But when you're
I never
talking
went
about
by
how
one polls.
But when you're saying how polls, the way that you made your argument was through your means, right?
No.
Through your website.
No. Remember, I even said...
And no. Oh, and this brings me back to my second thing that I didn't mention when I was trying to bring it to earlier, which was your characterization, your psychological profiling of people.
What do you mean?
Like, when you were describing Jordan fans being LeBron fans and vice versa, or no, LeBron fans being Jordan fans specifically, was that you were talking about this a very specific psychology about how these people think about how 1 and 2 must be, and that, I don't know how concrete that is. That is
but hang on,
approximation of conversation.
Hang on, you got a contradiction here. You also labeled people as LeBron James fans. What's the difference between you labeling people and me labeling people?
No, what I would say is there are Jordan fans that are LeBron James fans, that are Magic Johnson fans, that are John Stockton fans. There's a problem.
There's a problem right there. So this is something that Michael Jordan fans do a lot, where if you label them as Michael Jordan fans, or in this case, you're also questioning me labeling, I guess, LeBron James fans, I guess you're questioning. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But what you're doing wrong is you're giving this argument like, hey, they're also Larry Bird fans and Magic Johnson fans and Alex English fans and all that. You guys always do this as if somebody's telling you that if somebody's a Michael Jordan fan, they're not a fan of anybody else. That's not the argument. If someone says to you, this is a fan of America, it doesn't mean they don't like any other country.
You're misinterpreting what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you could, though I listed 4 people, right? What I mean is you could create pairs, right? Like a person who believes that Michael Jordan and Larry Bird are the best ever, right? Michael Jordan, because he is statistically the most popular, is going to occur in most of those pairs.
How do you know he's the most popular, by the way? How do you know he's the most popular, by the way?
I am going by what you said.
Polls.
Right? Polls.
Right. So
what I have seen in polls, what you've seen in polls, what I've seen in discourse, what I've seen in aggregated lists, what I've seen in journalistic lists.
There you go. There you go. Everything that you're going by, I'm also going by when I tell you what they think about LeBron James and all that. It's the same thing.
I've seen so many lists written by journalists, so that's a different type of knowledge, different type of information.
And if you remember earlier, if you remember earlier,
that would be different. That's why
I understand. And if you remember earlier, I said to you at one point, you can throw my page out the window. I was going to show you other examples, but you said let's go one at a time or something, which is fine. But there were other factors I was basing this on. It wasn't just my page is the end all be all. My page is good enough to show the information, but if you don't want to go by my page, that's fine. There's other places outside of my page. You can go to other YouTube. You can go to other YouTube pages. You can go to radio programs. You can go to internet pages and so on, where the same type of thing happens, where they pick Michael Jordan number 1, LeBron James number 2, or LeBron James number 1, Michael Jordan number 2, and they hate on LeBron James.
I'm a little bit unclear. So simultaneously, LeBron James and Michael Jordan fans. It sort of makes sense to me. So what you're saying is there is a group of Michael Jordan, LeBron fans, and then there is everyone else.
No.
And those people generally rank LeBron lower because you're claiming LeBron isn't generally ranked number 2.
I'm saying no. They're Michael Jordan fans, period. They're not separated as LeBron James fan. A LeBron James fan is someone who says, hey, I like LeBron James. I got his poster. Hey, I'm rooting for him and all that. That's just a regular fan, like a Jerry West fan, an Adrian Dantley fan, and Bill Russell fan, and so on. But when you start saying rings matter, finals MVPs matter, analytics matter, and so on.
Have I said anything like that?
Have I said you did? I'm saying to you, we're talking about the other people in the world. And by the way, as we get into this call, I wouldn't be surprised if you had some of these takes, but I don't know yet, obviously. But back to the other people, the people who think a certain way and then contradict themselves and move the goalposts and cherry pick things and so on, it's usually people who are into Michael Jordan. That's a Michael Jordan fan. I don't know why you're laughing. It's all right there, man. How about this? Let me ask you this.
I understand to some extent what you're saying.
Let me ask you this.
What confuses me? No.
Okay, go ahead.
What confuses me is that you seem to both simultaneously say there's this massive body, right, of misguided fans.
Yep.
That for whom LeBron is too, right, and then simultaneously that LeBron statistically isn't too. Where has this group of people gone?
What do you mean, where are they going? It's the same things you listed earlier. YouTube, web pages, I don't know if you said radio, but radio and so on. Most NBA fans are casual NBA fans. They pick Michael Jordan as the greatest. They think the 1980s and 1990s
No, my question is, why are they not statistically relevant? They're small enough that they do not affect LeBron's placement on general polling.
I didn't understand. What are you asking me? I'm not understanding you.
You're saying LeBron is not, in general, accepted as number 2. You said that earlier, right? That sometimes, is not a conclusion to make.
Right.
So sometimes he is.
Yeah, right.
Yes. Okay. So, we can agree on that sometimes, and then we can bring in other names for the other times.
But here's what you're not getting.
And I would also, I'll say, make one last point.
Sure.
I would also argue that LeBron's placement at number 2 and Jordan's placement at number 1 in general is tendentious, and it's determined by time. It's determined by time period, right?
Well, that doesn't mean anything to me. There was a time where people thought the Earth was flat. What does that mean?
No, this isn't an argument for that makes it factual. What I'm saying is that many of the opinions are not based on fact.
They're not all opinions, by the way. They're claims. When you say this guy is the number 1 NBA player of all time, you're not telling people what your favorite player is. You're making a claim that he is the number 1 NBA player of all time. And when you make a claim, it would be nice if you proved it. And as you know, I think you know, there is no fact to prove these things. And to your other point about what you're saying about these two groups of fans, here's a question I wanted to ask you actually a little earlier, not too long ago. Think of a Jerry West fan. Think of a Bill Russell fan. Think of a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar fan. Pretty much anyone else. Most of these other fans don't go around saying, you got to use rings. You got to use finals MVPs. The 1980s and 1990s is the greatest NBA era of all time, and so on. Who does these things the most? It's people who are into Michael Jordan. And if you disagree, if you disagree, here's a question for you. How do you explain that pretty much all the other fans in the NBA world and other sports, if you want, they don't usually do these things or these type of things?
I'll have to separate the two.
Right.
So I would assume that with players that are big fans of Jerry West or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar are going to also find associations within those eras, right? If they think that's the best player, and they will find other great players.
That's not what I'm asking about.
Great from that era.
That's not what I'm asking about.
No, but I'm addressing the first half, not.
No, that wasn't my first. That wasn't my first half. No. My first half is to show you if I'm wrong.
You said to think of these fans, so I'm thinking of those fans.
Right. Let me clarify what I'm asking you. If I'm wrong about Michael Jordan fans, LeBron James fans, and you're telling me it's not that simple, it's not just them, it doesn't make sense or whatever. By that logic, you have to show consistency where all the other Hall of Famers have fans and all the other sports have fans who do all these things, or who do, most of these things or similar things and so on. I've never heard, for example, a Babe Ruth fan say, Babe Ruth, we got to go by World Series rings, or a Wayne Gretzky fan say, we got to go by MVP of the Stanley Cup.
You ever read a Bill James book?
Say it again?
You ever read a Bill James book?
I don't know who that is.
Bill James, the man who created most of baseball's early advanced statistics and is the father.
You just answered the question right there. Advanced statistics, analytics. These are, again, things that are not reliable. So I'm not surprised. If you're going to say to me he goes by World Series rings, I'm not surprised because he's also
He
going by
doesn't go
analytics.
by rings. He goes by far much more complex data. But what I'm saying is that people are going to use specific data points to form an argument.
Rings are
like
not
that.
rings
That's
are
just
not data. No,
factual.
rings. I know I didn't give you rings as my only argument. I know that, but when I said rings and Finals MVPs, right away you said, "Have you heard of? Did you read this guy's book?" So I thought you meant that he goes by rings. If you're saying he goes by other things like data, that's great, but rings is not data. Finals MVPs is not data. The
I
1980s and
feel like
1990s being the best
if
era is not data, and so on.
no, what I would address about this, like the era stuff, like that is irrelevant to me. What I would say is an MVP, a championship, etc. These are things that must be understood historically and within their context.
Of course you do.
And
You're a Michael
there you
Jordan
can
fan.
derive, and then you can derive some value from them.
And you know who else agrees with you? Other Michael Jordan fans. I've never heard a Bill Russell fan, a Wilt Chamberlain fan, a Jerry Lucas fan, or anyone else say you got to go by MVPs or All-Star appearances or I don't know, analytics or anything like that. It's usually people who have a mindset to go to Michael Jordan.
Wait. You're talking about these fans if they are arguing that the player that they are the fan of is the best player, or are you saying they just don't argue that the fan is the best player?
Either way, if they're arguing for their guy or they're not, people who are fans of someone else, and not just basketball, any other sport, hockey, baseball, soccer, and so on, they don't usually go by these things. And if they do, go ask them who's the number one.
These things are championships and like all-stars and awards.
Nobody ever said Hank Aaron is the greatest baseball player of all time, partly because of his all-star appearances. Nobody ever said Luc Robitaille is one of the greatest hockey players of all time, partly because of analytics. Nobody ever said that this soccer player, I'm not into soccer that much, or hockey, is the greatest soccer player of all time, partly because how many MVPs he won.
You're wrong about soccer. Soccer has a very prevalent debate.
But there was more. Hang on. And if they do, go ask them who is the number one NBA player of all time, and then ask them, what do you think about athletics players before the 1980s? Most of them, if they're into basketball, will say Michael Jordan, and they'll say before the 1980s, they weren't tall, they weren't strong, they didn't have skills, and so on.
Yeah, I mean, I would consider that inane coming from anyone.
No, but this is not true. I've never heard. I'll give you a great example, Babe Ruth. When I was growing up, and you don't even need to know my age, nobody ever questioned Babe Ruth or his era. The most you would get is you'll say black players couldn't play. They had to play in the separate Negro leagues.
That was true.
Yeah, and that's true, right?
Yeah,
that's true. I don't dispute that. But they still gave him credit. In the last few years, I've seen basketball fans, aka Michael Jordan fans, now infiltrate baseball. Oh, these players were a bunch of white boys. They just basically smoked cigars. They sucked and all that.
That's wrong.
And guess who they pick as the greatest NBA player of all time? And ask them other takes. There's a pattern. One of the biggest things that you guys don't get is you guys don't go by patterns. And the funny thing is,
again, you're generalizing when I just agree with you. I think that's absolutely.
But just because you agree with me on some things doesn't mean you agree with me on everything. You clearly don't agree with me on everything, and I'm not questioning.
Of course, and no one will agree on everything. That would be an odd presupposition.
But I'm not questioning you for the parts you agree on. I'm questioning you for the parts you disagree on.
Of course.
Right. So when I say nobody does this and these guys do that, I'm not saying it's 100%. Okay, I'm sure in the state of Utah you can find a psychotic John Stockton fan. I'm sure they're there, but it's rare. You have to go by patterns. And one of the things I don't get is you guys will go by patterns when it comes to LeBron James fans, or maybe Donald Trump fans, or maybe feminists. In other words, or whatever, you'll take people and label them in a certain way, but then you can't wrap your head around it when it comes to Michael Jordan fans. There's an inconsistency and a contradiction and hypocrisy in the goalpost movement.
You're losing me here. I think it's sensible when there are large groups of people that are following a similar ideological bent, which if you're making the argument that there is an aspect of Michael Jordan fandom that has left the realm of basketball and become ideological, that's sensible to me.
Okay.
Yes.
So there you go. That's my point. I'll take it a step further. They are the worst sports fans of all time.
I don't know how that can be quantified.
I'll tell you how. Very easy. If you want, I can tell you, but I want to be fair to you if you want to go over anything. You want me to tell you how quickly?
Yes, of
Sure.
course.
Okay. Thank you. Think of every possible thing that you would have in your criteria of what you think may count as possibly being part of a group that's possibly being the worst sports fans of all time. Whatever your criteria is. Then, okay, I don't want you to go by my criteria. You tell me the criteria. Count each thing that you come up with. Ask yourself who does these things the most. And then if I say Michael Jordan fans, find me anyone else who takes it to their level. I'll give you, if you want, I can give you some examples because it might be too vague right now, which I get if it's too vague for you. You want me to give you some examples or no?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Go
great.
ahead.
So here, Michael Jordan is the greatest NBA player of all time. He will always be the greatest, even in the future. He's the number one college player of all time. He had the number one
Okay,
killer.
those last two are pretty crazy.
Okay,
But go on.
but he has the number one killer instinct of all time. He played in the number one era of all time. He's the number one scorer of all time. He's the number one leader of all time. He's the number one team player of all time. He was a perfect player, an all-around player. He dominated at will. He never slacked off. He beat all the stars. He won by himself. I could give you more examples, but you get the point.
Yes,
Here's my point, though. Here's my point. Think of all these things. Remember, there's more examples, but you get the point. So think of all these things and ask yourself, can you think of any other group of sports fans who say these number of ridiculous things about any other sports person?
Well, I would say, again, to return to soccer, Messi, Ronaldo, you will see a lot of that there.
Not as much.
And Larry Bird. I mean, he has his own
not as much,
personality. No, but certainly as vociferously. And then it just comes down to how do you define worst. Like, I lived in Massachusetts for a while at some point in my life, and I got to go to some Boston games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And every single Boston game, I heard someone called the N-word, right? Like, this is a personal experience of mine. So I think Boston fans are the worst, or at least Celtics fans, because I didn't go to any of their other sports. And I've heard these claims made by players, etc. So I would say they're the worst. But again, like, that's just from my experience, right?
Sure.
My experience with these people and these other players' experience. Does that really make Boston fans the worst? They also love their team.
I got you.
To the end.
Lot to cover here. So I'll try to go as fast as possible so you have time to follow up. I'm not going by a personal experience. I'm going by a general consensus, which are a number of things. Like, I listed some of those things earlier. I can tell you again if you want, but it's not my personal experience. It's a number of things. Number two, I don't say to you that no other group of cuckoo fans exist. I get your point about the soccer example. I'm not into soccer, but I'll take your word for it. And I've heard this from other fans. And even though I don't really agree with you about Larry Bird fans, I'll be open to that. But what you're forgetting is I'm not saying to you that there's no one else who's questionable. I'm saying count the number of things that Michael Jordan fans do that are questionable and ask yourself if anyone does as many things as them. And to your part about the racism in Boston, if you want to say racist people or the soccer fans who fight or people who kill and so on, if they're the worst, I won't argue with you. They're the worst. But I'm not including them because they're not sports fans. I'm not calling them the worst sports fans for what they do. They're just psychotic people who do horrible things. So if someone acts racist in Boston, that's not a sports fan. It's someone being racist in Boston.
Like there, if you talk, like, there was a recent interview. I have to look up who it was with a player who had played in Boston shortly after Kyrie came there, and they were asking about his experience of hearing about Kyrie from other players, and he describes that, and they say, like, where is the craziest place to play? And he says, oh, certainly the TD Garden. And then afterward, he says, oh, and I have some stories about Boston. And they all look at each other with a knowing glance, right? And these stories have been repeated by NBA players about going into TD Garden, or I forget its older name. And it's just become an accepted fact about Boston fans. Now, at the same time, I would not automatically say that these people are, like, evil. They just hold a very wrong position and utter it at basketball games.
Well, I said evil to summarize all the examples, not just racism. But, you could label racism as evil, couldn't you?
No, certainly. No, racism is evil. The racist act by a person, maybe the act is evil. Is the person evil? Maybe not necessarily. But
I understand.
my point is simply this:
There's different levels of
what you
racism,
can
and
do
some
is,
people act on it.
yeah,
Some people just act
no, but
racist, and some people take it far.
about fandom,
Right,
What
right.
I mean is, you could say there are this many categories, right, of various aspects, and Michael Jordan fans do the most of these in general.
That's my point.
Or you could say there is this one thing, and that is the worst, and this group of fans do it.
Sure.
And those
No,
would be
and
two different categories.
I know. Remember, I said to you,
worst.
I don't have the exact words, don't quote me, but I said to you, that's a fair point. If you want to talk about racist people or people who torture or kill and all that, if you want to say they're the worst, I'm not going to say you're wrong.
I'm not going that extreme. I don't know about any fans.
No, remember in soccer,
that
look, in soccer fights they have, or like maybe someone kills someone at a bar. So, but remember, my point is the reason I'm not including racist people and people who torture and people who kill and all that, I'm not considering them as sports fans at that point. They're just horrible people who did horrible things, or people who are racist, acting racist, which is horrible, but it's not the same as torturing and killing, obviously.
Well, no.
Unless
that's
it depends,
that,
you know.
The racism is more normative, whereas the other things are more extreme. Right?
Just to clarify for the racist part, there's different levels of racism, so it depends on what level they're doing or how they're acting. And then it's one thing to act racist, then it's another thing to take it out on someone else. So, for example, if one guy is at the TD Garden, as you said earlier, and he's saying racial things, that's one thing. But then if he starts to go on camera and tell people, like, "Hey, people, I don't want you to vote for black. I don't want you to vote for MVP for any of these black players," that's taken to a different level now. So there's different levels.
Yes, that would be a whole
right. And it depends on when they're being racist. It's one thing when it's one thing when they say racist things, and it's another thing when they do something that can affect someone in some kind of negative way. So, but I'm just including all these people. So you get my point on the racist thing, right?
Yes, I absolutely.
Okay, so
the general sense that I'm getting so far is that you make a lot of like generalized statements, right? Totalizations. Let's not say generalized. Totalizations of what you see as Michael Jordan fans as a whole, but you think that the argument for Michael Jordan being the best is self-same with that group, right?
But before I get to that, so remember I was asking you if you get my point on racism. So since you get it, so my point on those fans, when people do something negative, racism or something worse, torturing, killing, something that's negative, at that point, I'm not going to start ranking them. They're not like, okay, these are the worst sports fans, because they're not acting. They're just, those people are just bad. Those people are very negative human beings.
I don't accept the premise. Right? If the Dodgers had 500,000 murderers over the history of their fandom that were at the game murdering people at the game,
right?
You would say the Dodgers have a murder problem, right?
No, but that's a hypothetical.
Once they leave, right?
Yeah.
Then it becomes something different. Whereas specifically people screaming at players.
Your logic is right, but that doesn't happen. There's no you made up that hypothetical. Nothing like that exists. If it did, then I would say, hey, there's something wrong with these sports fans.
No, exactly. That's my point. Is that the racial example, and this is the last thing I'll say about it because it's very off topic, and I understand that.
I don't mind.
But it's simply that as a concrete thing that both I and many other people have observed about this fan base, I don't think it can be disentangled. Let me ask you this.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, whereas like this hypothetical murder torture example, right? Like if you want to separate some Brazilian soccer teams' gang affiliations from fandom, right? Like, okay, fine, right? That's a very rare fringe example, right? Mm-hmm. This is like a major sports team, right? That has a history and practice of doing so, has been documented, very well documented. I don't know how to separate that from the fandom.
Well, I'll tell you how, because I
would not generalize to say all Boston fans are that way, or even a majority.
But I don't say all Michael Jordan fans are the same way. I'm generalizing about what they do in general, and my generalization is not a straight up generalization. It's based on facts, logic, reason, and common sense.
No, that's why I said it was a totalization. Well, you're totalizing knowledge.
I don't really know. Like, well, can you doesn't really change much. Totalization, generalization, doesn't really change too much. It's a lot of the stuff I'm saying about Michael Jordan fans and other sports fans, again, are based on facts, logic, reason, and common sense. But to your part about separating the negative people, remember, here's how you can do it. Because I think you said something like, I don't know how to do it. Here's how you can do it. When I say to you that Michael Jordan fans are the worst sports fans of all time, or other sports fans are not as bad as them, that's sports. That's about sports. When you act racist or torture someone or kill someone or do something else that's negative, that's not sports.
Yeah, the people on the court are a race, and you're thinking about them as filtered
right, but
through
that's
that race.
but when
there's
you're
a tendency
but
that is part of the sport.
No,
right?
no, that happens in a sports place or with sports players or with sports fans and all that. But that has nothing to do with sports. You don't have to be a racist to be a part of a sport.
Yes, that's an enlightened view. Yeah, certainly. But I understand the abstract distinction you're making, and I can accept it. What I can't accept is the actual distinction, which is that somehow saying that X is the worst sports fan because of Y, and that Y thing can be completely removed from being part of the sport, because then when we say the sport, we're again getting into an abstraction. Like, for me, that will remain problematic.
No, but that's
right? In practice.
But by definition, that's not sports. Like, if you're going to rank baseball players and you say, what's the top 28 baseball players of all time? You're going to go by baseball things. You don't start saying, well, I got to include the racists in the stands. Huh?
We're not talking about the actual sport. We're talking about fans.
Right.
And therefore we bring in new factors.
Fans of what?
Right.
Fans of what?
Of sports.
There you go. So it has to do with their takes, their actions, their guesses or whatever on their takes, their actions, their guesses or whatever on sports.
So let's say this: you did one of your polls.
By the way, a lot of Michael Jordan fans are racist. Just so you know.
Oh, I would not doubt it. They're from Chicago. But nonetheless, let's say you did one of your polls and you added in, "Are you a racist?" and everyone answered honestly. Would their answers about sports now not be meaningful?
Good question. I have a better question. Would their answers, if they answered if they're racist or not, would that change the facts, logic, reason, or common sense about their takes on sports?
Yes.
Okay, so for example, let's say they're a racist. How would that change the statistics of Michael Jordan?
It might not change the statistics.
Might not?
It wouldn't change the. It wouldn't. Sorry,
Right.
It wouldn't change the statistics of Michael Jordan, but it might change how they would decide.
And that's what I'm questioning.
What factors they would value.
Right, and that's what I'm questioning, because remember, I'm telling you, you should go by facts, logic, reason, and common sense. But if you're to your bigger point, I get what you're saying. You're saying, look, if they're questionable, if they're very questionable in one area like racism, are they going to rely on them on other things? My answer is no. But also, even if they're not racist, I'm not going to rely on them on things if they're not going by facts, logic, reason, or common sense.
We're getting no disagreement here. I will return to what I said at the very beginning, which is that the concept of who is the best is ultimately an abstract one, right? And so, yes, there are factual elements, which we'll get into when we're talking about statistics and why you don't think championships are important, etc., right?
Yeah, by the way, championships are not statistics. You know that, right?
Of course.
Okay.
But I'm saying they are meaningful historical context to describe when you're talking about this abstraction, the best, right? Mm-hmm. Like that, those are two different arguments. Like like Bill Russell has far more championships than Michael Jordan, right? And if someone made a very strong argument for Bill Russell and used championships as a part of that argument, I would not discount them.
Right, but that goes to the other thing I was saying earlier. Remember I said, even if they're right and I'm wrong, even if their takes are factually right and mine are wrong, they're going to have inconsistencies and contradictions. So, for example, rings, if they're going to go by rings and Michael Jordan has 6 and Bill Russell has 11, do you think all of a sudden now they're going to be consistent? You know what they do, right?
No, but my question to you is then, what happens to the aggregation of all these facts, right? Like that aggregation is where things become abstract and where things get away from facts.
Okay, so
right?
just to make sure we're on this, just to make sure we're on the same page. Yeah, just to make sure we're on the same page. Let's define terms. What do you mean when you say they're abstract? Just to make sure.
Okay, like what I'm saying is, let's use the word weighting in this case, right? When people start weighting the value of championships versus this statistical category versus that statistical category,
AKA
versus this
making
era
things
versus
up.
that era.
Right, AKA making things up.
Well, no.
Yes.
Weighting is subjective, but it's inherently part of why people even make the claim about the best.
Yeah, with Michael Jordan fans. Like, with Michael Jordan fans.
No, with people saying something is the best at all times in any category. It includes a weighting, evaluation.
The people,
and this plays. Can I just let me finish one last sentence? And this plays to your point about the impossibility of the best, right? Because that subjective element is necessary when we talk about the best food, right? Who is the best cook? Who is the greatest artist, right? Like, we're getting into very subjective realms. Okay, and so in that regard,
I got you. But
the value, so the positive value of the best is not in if it's subjective or if it's not subjective, but how compelling the argument is as a narrative.
And that's fine. But so let me give you the compelling things here. There's two things you want to consider. One, when people do this for other topics like movies or food or nations or whatever, the same Michael Jordan fans are not consistent with their own whatever, facts, logic, reason, and common sense. So for example, with basketball, they'll say, here's my criteria, rings, finals, MVPs, era, and all that. And then all of a sudden with baseball or with movies or with TV programs and so on, they don't do these type of things. Number two, if you're going to say, hey, when people do these rankings for other things, it's an opinion. You're right. But here's a problem. When people tell you their favorite movie or their favorite nation or their favorite food and so on, it is understood that's an opinion. Michael Jordan fans don't say it's an opinion. They say he's the number one NBA player of all time. That's a claim. And they say it's a fact he's the greatest. And they'll say in the future he'll always be the greatest. And I could give you more examples, but you get the point. The point is they're not acting like it's an opinion. They're acting like it's claims and facts and like they proved it.
Yes, and they would be wrong in saying so.
Right. And no other group of sports fans does it as much as them or takes it to the level that they take it, which is some examples, again, of why they are the worst sports fans of all time.
You're talking about in America, right?
No, in the world. No.
Okay, I would ask you to go into the Spanish-speaking world and talk about Ronaldo or Messi.
Okay, let's. I'll tell you what. If you're not an expert on that topic, that's okay. Give me every possibility that you think they would say about him. I'll find more things they say about Michael Jordan. Remember earlier I gave you some examples.
Messi or Ronaldo?
Yeah. Remember earlier I gave you some examples and I said there's more examples. There's nobody who has as number of contradictory, non-factual, cherry-picking and so on as Michael Jordan fans do. Give me any player. Make up some things if you want.
I will pass because I'm arguing on behalf of Michael Jordan and not on behalf of Michael Jordan.
But you are making the point that, hey, there's other group of sports fans who are questionable.
Yeah, and you already agreed that they're questionable. You're saying that Michael Jordan fans are more questionable, and I'm willing to accept that.
Oh, you are? Okay. No.
It's not important to me in the end.
No. All this time you weren't accepting it. So if you are accepting it, great.
No, I would like to talk about the details, talk about your meaning, flesh out what exactly it is that we're talking about.
Yeah, sure. I gave you some examples earlier.
I'm not going to come to immediate conclusion, right?
But at some point you have to go by logic, right? Like if you say, I'll give you an example. Let's go Donald Trump fans. If you find that so many people say the election was rigged and Donald Trump is the greatest president of all time and the whole media or liberal media, most of the media is against him and so on, and you don't see as many questionable things from other politicians who have fans, at some point you have to go, A, there's something questionable about Donald Trump fans, which you've acknowledged, and B, that I'm not saying this is true, okay? I'm just making up a hypothetical that maybe Donald Trump fans are the worst fans of politicians of all time. I'm not saying that's true or it's not, I'm just I'm making up an example. So with Michael Jordan
Yeah.
fans, I gave you some examples of what they come up with, and I told you there's more. Based on what I've told you so far, can you think of any other star or non-star who has fans who have as many questionable takes as Michael Jordan fans? Just based on what you know so far.
I would say Cristiano Ronaldo has a fan base that functions similarly to what you described.
Okay, but that's not my no. But just to make sure, you did answer the question. You did, but just to make sure we're on the same page, do they have as many questionable takes?
I don't know how I would be able to quantify that, but I would say that you get everything that you listed, you would get from a Cristiano Ronaldo fan.
You made that up, and I'll show you how it's true. You have never heard them say, and I'm not even a big soccer fan. I just assume this is true. Okay, tell me if I'm wrong. I want to know if I'm wrong. You have never heard them say he is the #1 college player of all time. He'll always be the greatest in the future.
Oh yeah, well there's no college system in soccer the same as there is in basketball.
Sure,
so, yeah.
sure, okay, but you have to go by pattern.
But they might say that he was the best juniors player, or that he was the the greatest under 21 player, right? Like that would be a similar category.
And what I'm saying to you is, anything you come up with, I'll find something for Michael Jordan fans, and if we keep going back and forth, well, you name one thing,
but I'm not coming up with anything. I'm not coming up with anything.
But then why assume it might be true that they might be just as bad or worse?
You asked me a very specific question. Is there anyone that I can think of? And I said Cristiano Ronaldo.
But what are you basing it on?
Questioned that.
Yeah, what are you basing it on?
The categories that you listed.
No, but I gave you one example, college. You said they don't have a college. You have to go through.
But I can but I can imagine an analogous one. But most of what you talked about was he's a perfect player. He has like a ferocity that's incomparable.
Do they say he won games by himself? They don't.
Won games by himself. Oh, certainly.
No,
yes.
no. Everyone knows soccer is a team game. Nobody wins a game by himself.
I guarantee you, in Cristiano Ronaldo's last game where he got a hat trick in the first half, there was a large percent of the fan base.
That's not the same. No, winning one game is not the same thing as saying he won games by himself. Do they say he
won games? Yeah. What are you talking about? No, Cristiano Ronaldo has done this many times in his career. Right, I was just using that as like the most current example.
But there's no evidence that his fans consistently say he won games by himself.
I would just ask you to go into YouTube Shorts and try to type in CR7 and then scroll and see if you find an analogous experience as what you have with Jordan.
I'll tell you why I don't have to, because you have to bring in logic here. I'll do it if you really want me to. If you really want to set it up, we'll do it. I'll do it. But I'll tell you why you have to go by logic. Once you list, okay, here's 4 things, here's 8 things, here's 28 things, here's 49 things, the number keeps getting higher and higher and higher. Logically speaking, you have to ask yourself, would a soccer fan say this many things about it?
You are generating the categories, right?
No.
You can generate, as Deleuze said about Kant's categories. Why did he limit them to 3 pairs?
But I clearly
you can create them ad infinitum.
No. I clearly am showing you I'm not creating the categories. I'm going by what they say. I made up a hypothetical 49. That's not creating categories. I'm saying it keeps going and going and going and going.
You're saying you have 49?
Actually, I have more. I was just making up a number. I would just make.
What is your number? What is your number?
I never stopped and counted it. I never did that. But hang on here. I don't know how many planets are in the universe, but I know enough to know there's a lot. So if I find out that I don't know why that's a problem. That's a very logical thing to say.
No, I just thought it was a funny comment.
Okay, fair enough. I just want to make sure. Okay. So what I'm saying to you is, I'm basically saying 2 things to you. From the little I know about soccer fans, I have not seen them have as many questionable takes about their guy like Michael Jordan fans do about Michael Jordan. And even if I'm wrong, let's say they have way more than I realize. I know logically, no matter how many you come up with, even if you say, look, I found 49 things, 28 things, 100 things, 1,000 things with these soccer fans, I will find more with Michael Jordan fans. How do I know this? Because you have to go by the pattern. If you see the videos, watch the polling, listen to the interviews and all that, It's not even close. He's not even as popular in many parts of the world as Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is more well known than him.
Wait, Cristiano Ronaldo?
In some
No,
parts of the world,
that's certainly not true.
in some parts of the world, he's not as
No.
well known or as popular.
And in the most populous parts of the world, he is more famous.
You're thinking about soccer as a sport. I'm talking about him as a player.
And Cristiano Ronaldo as a player. Cristiano Ronaldo
you can,
and Messi
no,
are the
you
two
can go,
most famous
you can go,
sports stars
you can go
in
down the
world.
street in America and ask which guy have you heard more, Michael Jordan or the other guy? They're going to say Michael Jordan.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're not talking about America. You said the world,
and
I'm just saying.
I have to start. I have to start somewhere. I have to start somewhere.
Factually, in the world.
I heard you.
Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi are
but hold on.
just as famous as Michael Jordan.
But hold on. I had to start somewhere, so I started with America. You can go to other countries. You can go to India. Most people will know Michael Jordan more than him. You can go to other countries. Japan.
Absolutely not.
No, they will. He's the most famous athlete of all time. It's not even close.
I don't think you're recognizing just how popular Cristiano.
I don't think you're
Ronaldo
recognizing
are.
how popular Michael Jordan is.
No, I am recognizing. If it's roughly equivalent when you average out the world, fine. But there are some massive. There are continents where those two names are so much more.
But that's a different argument. No, that's a different
Jordan.
argument. No, I didn't say.
And in those continents, you will hear these arguments.
Again,
those
that's
are the
a different.
arguments that are had on Sunday.
You're not getting me. That's a different argument. I didn't say every part of the world.
Okay, wait. You'll have to remind, because then we're on.
What I'm saying to you is there are some parts of the world, many parts of the world, where Michael Jordan is more famous, more loved, more whatever, followed, and all that than the other guy. I barely know anything about the other guy. I know a lot more about Michael Jordan.
That's true.
But that's my point.
But I don't know if that makes the majority. I would question that. I would question that assumption.
No, I wouldn't, because Michael Jordan has gone past basketball.
And so have they.
No.
And they're playing now.
No. Buying Nike, buying Gatorade, watching Space Jam. All
He didn't buy Nike. He did not buy Nike.
No. I'm talking about people. You're not going to people who buy Nike. Buying Nike, drinking Gatorade, watching Space Jam, all the things that fans do. You can't even touch anyone else, including that soccer player. There's no one else on that level.
But those soccer players have built their social capital in different ways. They came up during the era of social media and the immense amount of content that is produced about
that's
daily.
why that's why I'm not focusing on one example. I'm trying to show you the pattern. If you go by Nike, Gatorade, a movie, Space Jam, and so much, he has touched more people.
This sounds like Rings to me, honestly.
No,
it sounds like Rings.
It doesn't.
Like,
it's not Rings at all.
If you're unwilling to accept different means of people quantifying their fame,
you're not getting me. You're still not getting me. I'm not denying other ways to get popular, be loved, be well known. I'm saying even in those other ways, it's still not as close to the multi-billion-dollar industry that is part of Michael Jordan.
Yes, Michael Jordan, at this point, because he's retired and transitioned into another period of business, another type of business, makes more money.
No, he was probably more famous years ago. As people get older.
Yes. Yeah, okay. Then, when he was a present player, you would have no argument from me. But now, I do not think that is true.
No.
These present players, with the conversion of their actions, what they say on TV, what they do, all the commercials in there, they're massive deals with sports.
Yeah, you're talking about
Gatorade.
You're talking about those certain places. I'm talking about the world as a whole.
We're talking about different, massive parts of the world, and the whole world knows Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi.
No, they don't. No, that is not true. That is not true. I go back to the I go back to America. I go back to India. I go to India. I mean, America is a pretty good representation of lots of parts of the world. It's over 300 million people. India has over 1 billion people. There's many people who have no idea who he is. They just maybe heard the name, maybe. Michael Jordan, everybody has heard the name Michael Jordan. Even if you're like in a small tribe in the mountains, there's a good chance you probably heard the name Michael Jordan.
Yeah, we disagree, but
okay. So let's try this. Let's try this. Let's try this. Let's say I'm wrong. Let's say I'm going to make it easier for you. Let's say the soccer guy, I keep saying the soccer guy because I don't even know his whole name. I don't even really know much about him. But let's say that guy is just as famous as Michael Jordan. Let's say he's more famous than Michael Jordan. I'm going to make your argument easier. This still doesn't change the original thing. The original thing was if Michael Jordan fans are the worst sports fans of all time. And what I'm trying to show you is no matter how many things you come up with what they say about their soccer guy, you will find more things with what they say about Michael Jordan that are questionable.
Oh, okay. So that's speculative. But
no, it's not. I could back it up. Let's do it right now. Let's do it right now.
Cristiano Ronaldo is second, Messi is first, and Jordan is number 3.
I don't understand what you just told me. You just went online somewhere and that tells me what now?
15 most famous athletes. Let's just click list. Here's another one.
Wait, hang on. You just had a contradiction.
Here's another one.
You just had hang on. Let me. Can I follow up to what you're saying? Before you laugh and act like you're winning, can you listen to what I'm saying, please?
I'm not. There is no winning here.
Okay.
Let's just get that clear.
All right, that's great. Let me just get back to what I'm saying here. Earlier, you told me when I told you about polls that you need to see the sample size, you need to see what they came up with, how it was asked, and all that. And now with these things you're showing me, you didn't do any research, you just assumed they're all reliable.
I am saying that we're both being highly speculative, which I said earlier, right, in different words, but that this is speculative, and that I do believe, and I think it's a fair argument to say that Cristiano Ronaldo is as famous as Michael Jordan.
You're dodging what I'm saying. You're dodging what I'm saying. When I told you about my polls, you were right to say the reasons why you don't know if you can rely on them. You were right to say those things, but you didn't say those things for the stuff you came up with right now. There's an inconsistency.
No. I'm not saying that because I have said this, that you need to take it for a fact, right?
Well, what's the point of telling me
this? This is not a ridiculous thing that I'm saying. That's all.
No, but
it's not ridiculous. You're saying it's not. You're saying it's not true. I don't think you have enough to say it's not true.
You're literally playing both sides. You're saying don't accept it as a fact, but here's the information.
That's not playing both sides.
That's literally playing both sides. Is it factual or not? Are those things you came up with factual or not?
They are facts of these lists.
Okay. How do you know? Because by your criteria, you need to do some more research.
Wait. I had already had this belief, having seen past information.
That's not what I brought up. Hang on. If you're saying that they're reliable, I'm asking you, how do you know they're reliable? Because you just said it yourself. You're speculating.
Well, the only thing that I know of, right, is that I would say is relatively concrete is ESPN releases a list every year. It's like the World Fame Index, I think.
The World Fame Index. Listen to that, man.
Yes. Huh?
Listen, how in the world would they be able to measure the World Fame Index? Are they going to Pakistan and the Congo and Mexico
fair.
And all that?
How do you quantify that?
I told you. I'll tell you.
All of this is to say one thing.
No, it's not. It's not.
It is reasonable to say Cristiano Ronaldo.
No. You're still not getting my argument. The reason I know Michael Jordan fans are the worst is because you can count it. I told you earlier, list things for any other. I even asked you, can you think of anyone else? Can you give me some examples? Every time you list something, I will find something for Michael Jordan fans.
I haven't listed anything.
Exactly. So how do you know you're right and I'm wrong?
I wasn't even we had gotten to a separate argument about could Cristiano Ronaldo be as well known as Michael Jordan? That was all that I was trying to establish.
And it was based, but hang on, it came after the topic about whose fans have more questionable takes, which led into, well, hey, I heard some soccer fans saying these things, and I was saying, well, you can't connect them because there's
if we rewind, all I could say on that subject is, compared to what you have listed so far, Cristiano Ronaldo and likely Messi as well fit the bill. Now, they don't. You may stop me.
No, you can't say every single one. You clearly said they don't have a college. You clearly said they're not saying the other one in the future.
But I gave you an alternate. So, like, what I'm saying
No. You gave me you gave me a guess about an alternate.
All right. If you do not believe that there are enough unique categories within arguments about soccer to match the amount of unique categories within an argument about basketball, That's the only way I can see making this argument.
Or maybe you should actually, maybe I thought you would see the pattern. Remember I told you I was listing some examples and then I said there's more, but you get the point. I was hoping if you go by the pattern, you would know if they're saying this, and there's more, at some point the soccer fans are not going to have as many. There can't be as many people having the same questionable taste. I'll give you an example. Okay, the college one we went over, the In the Future we went over, Space Jam. Some people thought it should have won Best Movie in the Academy Awards that year, and it's the #1 sports movie of all time. They can't say these things about the soccer player. I'll give you another one.
I definitely don't think a majority of anybody believes that Space Jam is the best movie of all time. I didn't
say a majority. I'm trying to get you to go by the pattern. Not all Donald Trump fans believe the election was rigged.
But if it's not a majority, or if it's not a substantial amount, I don't really care.
Well, what's a substantial?
If you're saying that a majority of my Michael Jordan fans believe this, then that would be insane.
No. Now we're going to get into what counts as a substantial amount. Before we get into that definition, because you'll have your own.
It doesn't even have a majority. Say it's 30%, 20%.
That's a lot.
15%.
Are you kidding me? 30%, 20, 15 is a lot. What are you talking about?
If 15% of Jordan fans thought that Space Jam should have won the Oscar for Best Picture,
that's a lot.
Then I would think that was an enormous amount, but I just don't think that's true.
Well, America has about, I don't know the exact percentage, about 14% American citizens who are black. Are you going to say that's not a lot? There's a lot of black people in America.
No, I am saying it's a lot. I'm saying that if you had that amount and you had evidence that 15% said that Space Jam should win the Oscar, that would blow me away.
Okay.
But I don't think you have that.
Okay, but like I said earlier, you have to get into what counts as your definition of a lot or not. I did take a poll about this, which I can check the percentages if you want. But anyway, it doesn't matter what your definition of a lot is, because I'm trying to get you to go by patterns. They don't all think the same things, but at some point they think enough stupid things where you go, here's another Michael Jordan fan. Space Jam is not the end-all be-all. The greatest is not the end-all be-all. The college thing is not the end-all be-all, and so on. It's a pattern. So, for example, not all
what you're doing is you're inverting the general form of the argument for Michael Jordan, which is that we are going to collect a whole bunch of varied factors to make an argument for this player. And you're saying these people talk about a whole bunch of varied, stupid things, and therefore they are the worst, right? They're mirrors of each other.
No. It's not. That's part of it. It's a number of things. So, for example, hold on. Well, what's wrong with that? I'm trying to tell you the answer. It's a number of factors. You should be happy that I'm not simplifying it. I'm going by the whole picture. They deny facts. They contradict themselves. They make things up. And there's more examples, but you get the point. When you put it all together, you cannot find anyone close to them. The soccer example you gave me, I will admit that there's a lot of soccer fans who have ridiculous takes about the guy because you and other people have told me this. But I'm saying to you, no matter how many things you come up with, I will find just as many with Michael Jordan fans or more.
I believe you can.
And more.
I do.
Well, then if you believe that, then what's the problem?
I don't believe that's concrete in any way.
Well, what else do you need?
Right?
What else do you need?
Because what you're saying is what you're bothered by. What you
No, if a guy says to me Michael Jordan won games by himself, I'm not bothered. That's just factually not true.
That's fair.
So it depends on their takes. Some are bothering, some are not factual, some they're contradicting themselves, and so on. Yeah. But I'm not going by one thing. I'm going by a whole picture.
I understand that.
I don't think you do. I think you're assuming what I'm doing.
15% of them, if 15% of them are like reasonable takes, then you got to remove those, right? Because they're sensible takes.
Well, but they don't have any reasonable takes.
Okay. Well, that I don't understand.
I'm kind of exaggerating. Obviously, there's going to be some reasonable take. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to make a joke and a point. Then the general consensus of Michael Jordan fans, all their takes in general, they either are factually wrong, or they contradict themselves, or they move the goalposts. And there's more examples, but you get the point. And I'm saying when you count everything line by line, you don't have to go by the 1% or 2% or 3% and so on. The significant number, whatever you think is significant, They're not. There's no one else.
Have some stupid takes.
There's no one on their level. They're the worst sports fans of all time. No one's even close to them. And if you disagree, I'm making your argument easier. Name me anybody. I don't care who. Give me any star or non-star that has fans, and give me as many things you can come up with. In fact, you can even lie to me. Make up some things, and I'll find more things that are questionable with Michael Jordan fans.
I'm not going to lie to you because I don't even think about basketball in this way, right?
No, but you get why I'm joking when I say lie to me, right? I'm not saying you're a liar. I'm saying you can actually make your argument easier and just lie to me. Make up some things that some group of sports fans say about some sports person, and I'll find just as many with Michael Jordan fans, or more, and more.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that, like, your capacity and your history of having already created this list of categories, like me going off the top of my head, it's as a form of argumentation, it's not particularly fair for me, right? Because I would have to go into all of the boards and YouTube arguments that I've seen for Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi.
You know what? There's more to that. You know why it's also hard for you? Because in your years of watching TV and listening to the radio and going online and all that, you haven't found any other group of sports fans who have any consistency like that.
It's only online because I'm in America, right? Like, the radio conversations in England, in Spain, in Brazil, they're not going to be related to Jordan at all. They're going to be about Lionel Messi, and they're going to be about Cristiano Ronaldo.
I don't listen to a lot of radio programs in India. Hardly ever. I have no reason to think that the cricket fans in India are going to have as many ridiculous takes about their favorite cricket player. There's no reason to think this.
But there's no reason to not think that.
Well, no, but your logic, you can just believe anything you want and say, well, why don't we just believe there's anything, like a unicorn flying in space?
I'm only making the speculative statement about one player in particular, but generally two.
No,
right?
but
so I'm saying that
when you
if I was giving time, I would take up your challenge. But
then let me follow up to the challenge. And when you say there's no reason not to, what reason would I have to believe that any other country in the world on cricket or boxing or hockey or whatever has a group of sports fans that have just as many or more questionable things about them like Michael Jordan fans? What? Just give me one thing.
We're gonna have to put a pause on this today. I have to attend to a baby.
Okay.
But let's put a pin in this.
Okay.
Because I would say that, have you ever been to Canada and talked to people about Wayne Gretzky?
I don't have to go to Canada to know what Canadian people think.
Nonetheless, I'm only making this argument about two people. Can
you admit this? Can you admit this? At least with my argument, just admit this part. You don't have to. With my argument, I am trying to show you it exists with facts, logic, reason, and common sense. With your argument, you're saying it's hypothetically true.
At this moment, yes, absolutely.
Okay,
because I have freely said that I have no means, without actual research, to collect categories and compare. Right?
Okay. Do you have any means to think? Do you have any
certain large amount? Wait, hold on a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
You have a large amount of categories, and that I am supposed to match that large amount of categories.
No.
Right?
No.
And so
no.
Yes, and you're saying
no. I'm saying no. No, I don't have categories. No, I don't have categories. I go by what they tell me. And what other fans tell me, or what they tell each other, or what they tell other people.
These categories can be associated with actual things people say. And what I am saying is
what they tell each other, what they tell other people, and so on and so on.
Absolutely. So my argument is speculative. It is hypothetical. It is saying that I do believe that if you go into the conversation around Messi and Ronaldo, you are going to find something extremely similar. Right now, what you call an exact number of your categories versus all the actual categories that are out there, there are certainly more things to hate about Michael Jordan fans than you have listed.
But
I would say that is probably comparable with Cristiano.
But when does logic and your personal experiences come into play? By your logic and your personal experiences, you have no reason to think these things. So in other words, what I'm saying to you
yes, I certainly do.
Well, hang on. If you let me finish, though. What I'm saying to you is, I like the logic that you're saying. Look, I don't have the research, or I haven't, I need more information. I don't have all the facts and all that, so I'm not going to come to a conclusion. I like that, okay? But here's a problem. On some things, you don't have to do these things. You can just use common sense, logic, go by reason, all that. Where
common sense. That's where we're going to diverge.
Hang on.
I find common sense to be an awful standard.
Hang on. Because you know how humans are and you know how sports fans are. You don't have to go to every country and know every sport and know all the stars and all that to know how people think in general then. And even if you say, well, look, I still need more information, you know that even if you find other sports fans who have lots of questionable takes, that's fair. But if you start saying who has the most questionable takes or who acts the most ridiculous or who contradicts themselves the most and so on, count the number of things Michael Jordan fans do and ask yourself, realistically, is anyone else going to be close to them?
I am asking myself that, and I am basing that on my experience being a soccer fan, being a football fan, and watching the debate around Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi and what those fans say.
But you've barely gave me any examples. Most of it was hypothetical. Did you go to Canada? Did they know Michael Jordan?
No, that was a joke about Gretzky. When I'm talking about them, I've been very clear about.
You're being serious too.
I don't
think you were joking on the Canada part.
That everything that you say about Jordan, you can find an equivalent in Cristiano.
I made a mistake. You were probably joking and being serious.
To produce a large list.
Right, but remember, I don't say to you that no one else in the world acts in any questionable way. That's not my point. I'm saying to you.
But that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that a Cristiano Ronaldo fan, based on the way that you describe Michael Jordan generally, I would say that they have a very similar mindset and a very long list of categories of
I'm not even saying that's not true. I'm not saying they don't have a similar mindset. I'm not saying they don't have a long list. I'm saying it's not close to Michael Jordan fans. If you say I'm wrong, I'd like to know, what are you basing that on?
I'm not saying that you're wrong. What I'm saying is that I am not sure of that.
Why would you not be
sure? Because I haven't tried to make the former list.
But look, if you're going to say in your personal experiences, you said, right, you go by your personal experiences and you're going by logic. What in your personal experience and by your logic makes you think, not that the soccer fans are questionable. I'm agreeing with you. I take your word for it. I don't know much about soccer. Not that they don't have lots of questionable things about them. I don't know much about soccer, but I'll take your word for it. I'm agreeing with you. What makes you think they could be just as ridiculous or more ridiculous than Michael Jordan fans?
Frequency of the arguments, the intensity of the arguments, and the similarities to which you're describing.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so the problem is perhaps, you don't know the details of Michael Jordan fans. Because if you knew the details, there's no.
I have a pretty good idea. Everything that you said is recognizable, except for the Space Jam.
Yeah, but even the things I gave you, even though I only gave you 11 points or whatever, by those 11. You know some of them can't apply to the soccer fan, and you know there's no reason it would apply to a soccer fan.
One certainly. Yeah, exactly. So I can't imagine an equivalent category.
Okay, so let's do it. Michael Jordan is the greatest. They say their guy is the greatest, right? So that's even, right?
Yep.
Okay, Michael Jordan is the best college player of all time. They don't have a college. But is there any reason to think Michael Jordan is the greatest college player of all time? No. Okay, so let's keep going. Michael Jordan is the best leader in basketball of all time. Do they say that about their soccer guy? Not consistently. Michael Jordan is the best team player in basketball of all time. Do they say?
Certainly, absolutely.
Do they say that about soccer guy?
Absolutely.
Okay, fine.
It would be framed differently.
That's fine. That's fine. I don't deny that they say that. Okay. Michael Jordan will always be the greatest in the future. Do they say that about their soccer guy? Consistently. I'm not asking about the exceptions to the rule. Consistency. If you go around the world, do they say that?
That Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi will be the greatest forever. I'm not sure.
There's no reason for you to think they do that. Come on. There's no reason for you to think that.
There is a reason to.
No,
because I've never heard intensely these people love that.
Okay. Would you say that people would do the same thing for Babe Ruth and Hank Aaron and Mike Tyson and other stars?
No, because they're not performing now. Jordan's a rare case where he can compete with people performing.
That's your criteria because you're not performing now. That's your criteria.
Wait, what'd you say?
That's your criteria that they're not performing now. When they were performing, when they were not performing, no other group of sports fans in general said that he will always be the greatest in the future.
No group of sports fans said that he will always be the greatest in the future. Again, here's my difficulty with this conversation and like making any statements about it is simply that like I do not have like at my hands the discourse, what people wrote about Bird and Magic Johnson actively, what they talked about in a barbershop.
Come on!
We have no way of aggregating.
You don't have to go to barbershops or any places in public. You can go by the internet.
I'm talking about
if nothing else.
Well, how people talk. These people did call them the greatest at the time.
No. I understand. Remember, I would be open to you saying that there have been some sports stars who had fans who said he'll always be the greatest, because people say things like that. I'm saying to you, the general rule is Joe DiMaggio fans, Ted Williams fans, Roy Jones Jr. fans, and so on. They usually don't say these type of things.
Well, this is about this specific point that he will always be the greatest. I have seen people say that. I have not seen that be the consensus. I don't think most people believe that anybody can be the greatest for all time.
Michael Jordan fans do.
Okay, well, if you can show me that, are you willing to talk against
not only am I willing to show you, you don't even have to believe me. You could just test this theory yourself. Ask them what they think. Or don't ask them. You know what you can do? Go to a popular Michael Jordan video on YouTube, go to the comment section, and write down, Michael Jordan will always be the greatest NBA player of all time, and see how many people press the like button. This is very well documented everywhere. Now, test the theory. Go to a hockey page, or a boxing page, or a baseball page or whatever, and write down, so-and-so will be the greatest in the future. See the same kind of reaction what you get. In fact, you'll get backlash from people who will question you. With Michael Jordan fans, they're all pretty much on your side.
I'm curious about Gretzky. Statistically, he is so ahead of the field that he might get some support. But I understand.
I don't say he won't get any support.
I'm willing to concede that.
I'm not saying
Jordan has that category locked.
Yeah, I'm not saying he won't get any support. Okay, and it's not just that category he has locked. Keep it going. He's a perfect player. He's an all-around player.
That perfect player that you're going to hear as
that's fine. That's fine. I want you to go by the whole thing. You don't have to. You can just give me quick ones if you. You can do whatever you want. But I'm just saying you can just give me quick. This one happens. This one doesn't happen. He has the best statistics of all time. How many people say that about other people?
Ronaldo, absolutely. Okay. Messi, absolutely. And that's the argument.
Okay. I know for a fact that if I went on soccer videos and I went to other places, I know there'll be less people saying these kind of things.
No, what would happen is this. You would say Ronaldo is the greatest, and someone would say Messi. If you said Messi is the greatest, someone would say Ronaldo. And that is the entirety.
I'll accept that, but I know the majority of soccer fans. I can't prove this to you, man, but I have no reason. Let me switch the sentence. I have no reason to believe, like you were trying to make that point earlier, that majority of soccer fans say this kind of thing about their guy.
The intense belief that those two are the best, much as you said about this like pairing, and you could make a similar argument that all Ronaldo fans are Messi fans and all Messi fans are Ronaldo fans.
Okay.
But I would say you see similar behaviors, similar types of statements.
How about the old timers?
A similar intensity of argument.
How about the old timers? The old timers agree with all this stuff?
What'd you say?
How about the old timers? Because in every sport, the old timers always will say that the current generation or the recent generation is not as good as the past generation.
Soccer doesn't have that same tendency as basketball.
Well, that's very different in that. I know for a fact that's not true. That is not true.
No, that's not true. Even soccer players themselves, because this discourse comes from players. They talk about how the game
the players are
a
lot of players are idiots. A lot of players are idiots. I can find you basketball players.
I'm not talking about idiot players. I'm talking about the general tone you will get.
I got you. A lot of basketball.
Other sport.
A lot of basketball players,
except for maybe F1.
A lot of basketball players are, even the ones who are not idiots, have ridiculous takes. And I know in soccer there are plenty of old people who will back up their guy from their generation.
I'm not denying that. What I'm saying is not referring to Michael Jordan, LeBron, not referring to Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi, that there is a difference in the way that soccer is appreciated and the development of soccer is
appreciated. But that has nothing to do with what I'm saying.
Versus basketball.
But that has nothing to do with what I'm saying.
No.
I'm talking about his fans.
It has nothing to do with what you're saying, but it has to do with what I'm saying, which is that affects how people perceive Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi as the forefront of greatness.
But what's the point of telling me that?
The point of telling you that is that is a separate effect outside of Michael Jordan that intensifies their argument.
But if you're going to go by that logic, Michael Jordan, who I think is the most famous player of all time, you disagree. Maybe you think he's just one of the most famous of all time. Fine. Either way, it can intensify with his fans just as much or more.
I'm not sure what to say to that, but I want to look at some stats and start building my argument about Michael Jordan.
Okay. And how about the other things? Do you want me to list the other things they say about Michael Jordan?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, great. Okay, let's see here. He has the best. Oh, we were in statistics. He has the best analytics of all time. Is that a consistent thing used in the world?
Absolutely.
In third world countries where soccer is popular, you think they know much about analytics?
I'm saying where they talk about analytics, they would say the same thing. Just like in the third world country,
that's not what I'm talking.
It's going to be less likely for them to say make an analytic.
No, you're still not getting my argument.
Your point makes no sense because you
can say the same thing. It doesn't make sense to you. We're not on the same page. Let me clarify my argument. I'm not talking about certain countries. I'm talking about the world in general. So if I say to you in third world countries, they don't know much about analytics.
In general, yes.
And you say to me,
the third world doesn't know about basketball analytics.
But you're not getting me. Let me clarify so we're on the same page before you disagree. When I said to you third world countries don't go by analytics, and then you told me how other parts of the world go by analytics, the flaw in your argument is I'm trying to show you to go by all fans, not the fans you want to go to.
No, you're misunderstanding me. What I'm saying is, in general, in these conversations, when analytics is brought up for basketball and soccer, it is done so equivalently and in the same ways for these players as it is for those players.
I think, by the way, I picked up on this. The mistake you're making here is you're doing the right thing to say, I don't have all the information, so I'm not going to come to a conclusion. That's fine, but you take it too far where it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, please, it seems like you're going past that and just try to be a contrarian and just disagree with anything.
No, that's not true. All I'm saying is that I believe this is true, what you're saying about Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi. You bring in other people, you bring in other elements, but I'm saying for the categories that you've listed, for the arguments and things that people have said, that these are equivalent, not all time.
It's not equivalent because if they say Michael Jordan has the best analytics, regardless of what the country is, all Michael Jordan fans go by analytics, but they don't do this in soccer. You can't say, well, those countries are not enlightened or the third world countries. I know you didn't say those exact words. I'm just saying to you.
What I said.
I know. You can't go by that logic because you have to go by all fans in general. And in other words, what I'm saying to you,
that's what I was doing. You brought up the third world country about soccer.
No, the reason,
and I just brought it up about basketball.
You're still not getting me. The reason I brought up that thing about third world countries is because I'm trying to show you you're not going by all fans.
But when we're generalizing fans, they are included, but they're not going to make the majority of people talking about analytics, they wouldn't for basketball.
But in Michael, that's not true. That was the other thing I was going to get to. In the basketball world, no matter what country you're from, America, India, Mexico, or whatever, if you have any knowledge of basketball and you like Michael Jordan, you're going to go by analytics. I don't know any Michael.
In India, in Mexico, and in every country you listed, they will go by analytics and soccer as well.
No, not every country.
If you're talking about,
but you just wait, hang on. Not every country. Not every country. You even agreed with me a little while ago that third world countries don't.
Right now, you're talking about the second world, right? And
I'm not going to label India as second world or third world or first world.
First world means associated with the United States. Third world meant associated with the Soviet Union. Second world was a small group of countries.
Is this your definition or some guy online definition or?
That is the original definition. Okay, now how that changed was second world countries became a new economic status in that they were not dependent on world economic order, but they were less rich.
Just so you know, I disagree with these definitions, and even if I'm wrong, there's no way to classify certain countries as one way. Well, let's get past that.
What I'm saying is there's a difference between Mexico and let's say Uganda, right? The amount of technical knowledge will be substantially different. And in Mexico, the knowledge is high enough where soccer fans use analytics.
No, but
That's
but no,
all.
but Michael Jordan fans in general, regardless of their country, they go by analytics.
Do you have a cross section of
There's
attendees?
so many examples I can give you. So many examples. The better example would be better question would be, how many examples can you give me where a Michael Jordan fan is not going by analytics?
Michael Jordan fan is. I mean, in many of the other examples of arguments that you've made, they're not analytic.
I didn't say they were.
Yeah, but when people make those arguments, they're not making an analytic
I
argument.
didn't say they were. What does that have to do with anything?
Okay.
I'm saying to you, how many countries?
People are not making all arguments at all times.
No, they're not.
They're
But the majority,
we talked about variation in the group, right?
But analytics is a well-accepted thing with Michael Jordan fans, especially PER. These are. It's like saying they don't go by rings or Finals MVPs or All-Star appearances.
Okay, now
by your logic, you could say.
Argument. You're saying that when people argue that Michael Jordan is the greatest, they use PER a lot. Is that what you're saying?
That's definitely true. Yes.
Okay, yeah, I would say that's probably true. But PR is not the end-all, be-all.
And I never said that's another thing that you Michael Jordan fans do. Whenever there's an argument, this usually happens with rings, by the way. Like they'll say rings, and then I'll tell them what the problem is, and they'll go, "Well, rings is not the only thing. I have other things too." So you did it with PER. No one is saying PR is the end-all, be-all. So I do think you're making this mistake, man, where you're doing the right thing into saying, I don't have all the information, so I'm not going to come to a conclusion, but you're taking it too far where you're just going to be a contrarian and disagree with anything.
What I think you're doing is you're presuming my beliefs.
I'm going by what you said. I said to you, I said, remember earlier I said, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're showing me, based on what you're showing me.
I did correct you.
Right, but you're telling me I'm wrong, but I have no reason to think so far I'm wrong. I'm just going by what you showed me.
We haven't actually talked about Michael Jordan yet.
Oh, no, we did, but if we didn't, that's another thing that you Michael Jordan fans do a lot. Like, you'll come on my show and bring up certain things, and I'll follow up, and then at some point you'll go,
let's be clear.
Well, hang on. Let me finish.
I said I wanted to do it tomorrow
Can I just finish what I was saying, please? And then you guys will go, well, I didn't get to go to what I wanted, or I didn't get to go to Michael Jordan, but I'm following up to your points. If you want to go over Michael Jordan, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not accusing you of doing anything wrong with my argument.
Oh, come on. When you say to me, well, come on.
Conclusion.
I'm
saying you're wrong about my conclusion.
No,
but I'm not saying that you're like.
No, but if you say to me, we haven't gone over Michael Jordan, you are kind of questioning me.
The reason why we haven't. Sorry, it's getting very distorted. All I'm saying is the reason why we haven't gotten by Jordan to Jordan is mutual. We have talked about Jordan fans. We have both chosen to do that. If I had wanted to talk about Jordan, I would have tried to push it.
So what's the point of telling me we haven't gotten to Michael Jordan? What's the point of telling me that? I know that. Actually, we did get to Michael Jordan a little bit, but anyway.
No, but I mean, because we were coming into this talk about analytics and how they should be used, and then that would be something more about the player.
No, I'm not saying how they should be used. I don't think analytics should be used at all. I'm saying they go by analytics.
Okay. Then we would have a basic disagreement, but I don't think that we'll be able to resolve that right now.
No, we could do it because you have to go, you mean? Is that what you mean?
Oh, as I said earlier, I have to go to my baby. I had to about half an hour.
No, I understand.
As you said, I do want to continue.
No, I didn't know if you meant we can't resolve analytics right now because you have to go, or we can't resolve analytics as a general thing. So.
I've just been stretching it out, and my wife has been calling.
No, I understand.
But I would love to continue a more detailed conversation about the player. I do think this is interesting about fans. I don't disregard your idea that Michael Jordan fans have a problem with argumentation. That doesn't seem wrong at all.
Okay, and I'm not accusing you of not. I think one of the biggest problems is, and I'm not knocking you. I understand if you don't know. But I think you don't know the details of how they are in general. If you knew the details of how they are, I can't say you can't deny it. You can always deny it, but it's just very. It would be very strange to deny it. Like think of Donald Trump fans.
I haven't denied it.
No, you've denied lots. You have denied lots of. No, you have denied lots of things that they do. Lots.
No. All that I've said is that I believe Cristiano Ronaldo is comparable. That's all. You're taking that to mean that I don't
by the way,
appreciate Michael Jordan.
That's not the only thing you said. You said more than that. But on that topic, can I ask you, when I gave the example of America, of how most people would know Michael Jordan more than the other guy, I'm not saying you dismissed it. You didn't. You gave the good point that there's other countries out there and all that. But America is a pretty big place and a very popular place. Doesn't that show you if America is like this, there must be other countries like this, especially countries who are similar like America?
But also, we could talk about the entirety of South America, all of Europe, where Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi are infinitely more popular than Michael Jordan.
Right, and we could talk
Michael
about
Jordan
other countries.
Is just a shoe salesman.
And we could talk about other countries like India, like Japan, like, I don't know, Kazakhstan, other places where he's not as popular as Michael Jordan.
But is he more popular than Cristiano Ronaldo? I wouldn't say necessarily. And I'm going by worldwide aggregate.
It depends on the. It depends. No, remember, I'm not denying.
More popular by worldwide aggregate.
I'm not denying certain countries he might be more popular than Michael Jordan. I say might because I have no evidence that he is. But let's say he is. That's fine. But there's other countries where I know Michael Jordan is the most famous sports player today and of all time.
I know where those two soccer players are more popular than Michael Jordan. But what I would say is check out the ESPN Fame Index.
Did you have any
statistical criteria?
Did you have any proof?
Look at the statistical criteria and say if you believe it's meaningful.
No, first of all, did you have any proof that they're more popular than Michael Jordan? I'd like to know where your proof is.
I mean, I've seen an immense amount of lists. Now, I haven't gone into every list and seen what their statistical criteria
then you're contradicting yourself.
But I would say that if all of these statisticians are working on this and they come to a similar conclusion that Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi are the two most famous sports stars in the world, that there is likely some reason for that.
Well, no, there is. And I'll tell you some of the reasons. Ratings, money, attention, and so on. ESPN is a Michael Jordan loving place full of Michael Jordan fans. They are the ones.
So then, why would ESPN say that Michael Jordan's less famous than Cristiano Ronaldo?
I have to go into who did it and why. So, for example, if it was ESPN Barcelona, there might be some other differences there.
No, it's just the ESPN Fame Index. It's released on regular.
That's
ESPN
fine. I have to, like you said, I have to go research what happened. But I actually don't have to because
look up other lists. Hang on. It's not an uncommon reality. It's actually very common.
But I actually don't have to research these things because I know ESPN has a history of not being reliable. I could give you a million examples, and I know many people in the media.
For the Fame Index, all you have to do is look up its statistical criteria and say if you like it or not. If you think it's reasonable, if you think it's meaningful. If you don't, then you don't.
No, the Fame Index is a made-up thing. It's not a real thing.
Yes, every attempt to quantify exactly what someone's fame is made up to some extent. Right. Yeah, so like any statement you make about Jordan over Cristiano Ronaldo is just as made up.
No, it's not because I could prove because I could prove it to you factually. And I gave you some examples earlier. For example, when you are working with Nike and Nike shoes are the most popular and it's $1 billion industry.
That's not evidence. What you're doing is you're listing very large amounts of money that have been invested in him. And I would not deny that he has an enormous amount of money. But I don't think that has anything to do with how famous someone is and how intensely people care about them. No. And when we talk about that, I think it's reasonable.
No, you're right if I just stuck with Nike. Because by my logic, the second most famous, third most famous, and so on will have to have links to Nike. That's not my argument. What I'm saying is when you have $1 billion industry, we're not talking about the guy who sold the 28 most shoes with Nike, Kawhi Leonard, or I'm just making up a name or whoever. I'm talking about $1 billion industry with Nike. And when you have Gatorade and when you have Space Jam and all the other things that he has been a part of, you cannot deny. But again,
I don't even think it's meaningful because all the people who know about Michael Jordan through his shoes don't necessarily have an intense opinion on Michael Jordan.
That's true, but they know about him more.
Yes, but
that's my point.
You don't understand how massive Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi shoe deals are around the world.
I do. But for all the Michael Jordan fans listening, you'll be happy when I say this thing. You don't understand how massive Michael Jordan is.
No. I do understand. What I'm telling you is simply that I have looked at lists that try to quantify how famous someone is.
There's no way to quantify that.
Very often list Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi at the top. If you don't believe that, that's fine.
No, but even if I accept your criteria, you haven't proven it. You just told me some articles on ESPN have a mass index, and if so many people are doing it,
it's not an article.
No, and you're saying if so many people do it, there must be some truth to it.
What?
And you said if so many people are doing it, there must be some truth to it. These are not arguments.
No. I'm not talking about just having an opinion. I'm talking about polling and studying data, right? That's what has been done.
There's no consistent poll among the history of sports that say those two soccer players are the most famous sports stars in the history of mankind.
No.
Yes.
What the indexes are who is the most famous right now, not all time.
Okay.
Who cares about all time?
Okay, that's fine. Can I ask you though? Why don't you want to? We'll get to now, but why don't you want to include all time? That's part of it.
You're talking about a fandom in a particular moment where argumentation is happening online that's pointing out these facts to you that bother you, right?
No.
And so
the problem is if you just go by today, you're going to have a lot of recency bias, people brainwashed by the media, people who are their generation.
Today I mean a general thing, not literally.
People don't do research and all that. If you go by all time, that capture more fame.
Repeat that one more time.
If you go by all time, sure, you're going to capture more fame. I can do today if you want, but why not go by all time?
No, if we're talking about all time where we're capturing dead people's beliefs, then yeah, it is probably true that Michael Jordan's all time.
But dead people would include people who knew Michael Jordan and the other two soccer guys.
Some, but not most.
But a lot of them would be there too. The more you get, the better. Get as many people as possible.
Honestly, if you're going to talk about who's known more and the other is not known, like recently, it's going to become more the soccer players because they play in more popular sport that's available in immensely more countries.
That's what you believe, and I have no proof.
No, it's certain.
They're more.
Soccer is an immensely more popular sport. It is available in more countries. That is
hold on. Do you know how much money soccer makes compared to all the other leagues in the world? Do you know?
What does money have to do with availability and popularity?
Because when you buy tickets and when you buy games on TV and when you buy jerseys and all, they all connect to popularity.
They also spend way more. There are no caps on how much they can spend. So they spend 10, 20 times more than the highest basketball
how popular do you think soccer is? How popular do you think it is? Let's establish definitions.
What?
Let's establish definitions. How popular do you think soccer is?
And by what metric?
That's what I'm trying to establish, because you came to these conclusions. I'd like to know your metrics.
How popular?
Yeah.
I would say that generally when there are, I don't want to call them lists because they're people trying to make statistical approximations of popularity, the soccer is number one, and it has been for a long time.
And you don't want to include money, I'm guessing, right?
About how much money that soccer makes? Yeah. I mean, there's so many soccer leagues. Are we aggregating them all? Or are you talking about specific soccer leagues?
Listen, you tell me. These are your conclusions. I'd like to know, since you want to go by affirmations.
The aggregate of all soccer leagues in the world compared to the NBA.
Well, how do you know that?
No, I'm asking you.
No,
you said you got the total. So what's the total of all soccer leagues in the world?
One of the things I go by to find out how popular is something is the bottom line, the money.
But it doesn't have a direct conversion. That's an absurd claim.
No, that's not absurd. If you're not going to go by purchases, and you're going to downplay that like there's no direct connection, that's absurd.
You said the amount of money they make, not the amount of purchases. That's a different argument.
No, but money. No. I'm talking about.
Let's go into total jersey sales of Cristiano Ronaldo.
Okay, but why even stop there? Go by the entire league.
No, because the league, that makes no sense. What are you talking about?
Well, if you're going to go by all, it makes sense. If you're going to go by all fans, why not go by everything?
That the NBA makes or made all time into anything that you can compare to Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi,
then you're going to go by, right? Then for your definition of popularity, it seems to be whatever you want to go by.
No, what I'm going by is various polls that I've seen online.
I don't understand. You just said earlier, you just admitted earlier that some of these polls, you didn't do enough research about how reliable. I don't have the exact word, don't quote me, but you basically said you didn't do enough research about how reliable they are.
I simply said that I do not know
how
their
good?
Metrics work.
Right, so how do you know they're reliable?
I don't know that they are.
So what's the point of giving these arguments?
As I said earlier than that, I said if all of these are coming to the same conclusion, then there is a reason to think There's a reason why they are. Now, if that reason is absolutely correct,
but you're coming to, but hold on. But I don't mind those things. But when you start to disagree and come to conclusions, those are the problems.
My conclusion is that you don't know. That's it.
Well, no. Okay. Well, I can say no.
That your claims.
No, I do know, but I can say the same thing to you and say I can say the same thing. I do know.
No,
I can say the same thing to you that you don't know.
What you have said has not been substantial evidence.
Oh, there is. There's plenty. No, give me one thing that I said that's not substantial. Give me one.
What I can say is that if you took an aggregate of the biggest soccer leagues in the world, they make many times more money than the NBA does. And I guarantee it.
You cannot guarantee that.
I can guarantee.
No, you cannot, because the most popular.
How about this? For when we come back to this and actually talk about Michael Jordan's
I can tell you right. I can tell you right now.
I will bring a number.
Unlike you, I did the research, and I think you're coming to too many conclusions without doing enough research. It's factual that there are leagues out there.
No,
there are leagues. Well, hang on. Hang on. There are leagues out there leagues, not one league, leagues that factually make more money than soccer.
Wait, what? You're saying individual leagues that make more than what league in soccer?
Any soccer league.
Okay, so the Champions League, I would assume probably the NBA, the NFL.
Don't assume. Know for a fact. Do you have any proof that any soccer league consistently makes more money than any other league in the world?
I've already explained that they spend many times more money.
This is your belief. This is your belief. Where is your proof they spend more money?
No, that's a fact.
Well, show me the fact.
Real Madrid spent over $1 billion
okay, great. Okay, if it's a fact,
on their players.
Hang on. If it's a fact, show me the fact.
Okay, let's look up the total salary of Real Madrid and.
Well, don't you already know? Can't you just cite it to me? Don't you already know?
I have no. You're playing a silly game because before.
No, I'm just trying to figure out how you know these things.
I would like to aggregate the data. I would like to have that already. You're asking me a question about data.
Okay, are you saying that you already know it's a fact? You just don't have it in your pocket. You have to go get it. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, so then you do that. And once you find out that you are factually wrong, what are you going to say? Are you going to say, well, they spend more money, and then I'm going to say, where's the fact on that? And you're going to say,
the fact is, I said that soccer teams pay many more times on their players than any NBA or NFL team.
I'd like to. I'm very surprised.
And that would make it so that there would be less profits total for the league.
I've never heard. Hold on. I've never heard of a good business model that said, let's make less profits and spend more.
They have no salary cap. It's part of their tradition.
But they have business sense. Their main goal is to make money. No moron who's trying to make money for his franchise is going to say, I could make more money, but I'm going to not make more money and spend it more on players.
But they do.
No, they don't. No, you believe they do.
Okay.
And by the way, I also want to point out something else to you. Because there are some franchises who don't spend enough money and they're making money, you would think that the other ones. Hang on.
Here's another
can I just finish what I'm saying? Well, can I finish what I'm saying though? So by that logic, since we know there are some franchises who don't make as much money and they spend more money, you would think that they would learn from the other franchises who spend less and make more.
No, because they don't have access to that amount of money. The ownership, that's why Saudi owners have been buying teams.
No, but that's hurting your argument. That's hurting your argument. That's hurting your argument. That's hurting your argument because if they don't have as much money, they would spend less.
That's for the lesser teams, not for the higher teams. So here, again, get to the point that I was about to make, and this will be my last point, because unless we're going to continue this, it doesn't seem like
I don't mind.
Like you want to stop. But
it doesn't seem like what?
What I was going to say is the best teams in leagues are in leagues around the world, right? And when you aggregate the value of those teams, right, it's immense.
All right, let's try this. Let's try this.
A team in Crystal Palace.
Let's try this. Hang on. Let's say I'm wrong, and these franchises don't make as much money because they spend a lot on these players. It's peanuts. When a league makes billions and they're spending millions, that is peanuts. You can still make, and by the way, you can still make a lot of money even if you spend a lot of money on players.
I did not disagree with that.
Well, then if you don't disagree, I'd like to understand your logic that you say soccer leagues cannot make as much money because they spend more. And by the way, I want to remind you.
I didn't say they cannot. So the difficulty in comparing.
No, you did say that.
Soccer
No, you did say
to
that.
basketball.
No, you did say you were saying they can't make as much because they don't have a salary cap and they spend a lot on players. You said they spend more on players than anyone else, actually.
I was saying there's going to be less profit because of that roster.
But I'm saying to you that less profit, if your league makes $8 billion and your franchise spends...
You don't understand the aspect of vanity.
No, but listen to what I'm saying. No, listen.
Like Real Madrid spent
listen to what I'm saying. If a league makes $8 billion and a franchise spends $11 million on a player, it's peanuts compared to the entire league.
I mean, $727 million is more in comparison to the totality of a league than the $180 million in the NBA.
I don't understand. We're talking about leagues making billions. You're talking about millions.
But you're ignoring my other point, which is that there is no league that has the totality of all the good players. The NBA has a monopoly. There is no soccer league that has a monopoly. If you aggregate all the major soccer leagues, they will dwarf the NBA by many times.
Hold on. These are, again, your beliefs. There's plenty of leagues that have the monopoly and don't have the monopoly, and they spend a lot or they spend less. You're just giving these simple summaries.
But they all have salary caps.
Right. And
every American league
has salary caps. Hold on. I don't even know if that's true. I have to research that.
It is true.
Well, that's what you say. So far, you've been wrong about lots of things, but I'm open-minded. That's true.
You claim I've been wrong, but
you made it. Well, let me remind you.
I would just like to go over what's happened. You made a claim about how many people, how many bad things that Michael Jordan fans do, being more than everyone.
Right.
And you've taken as proof your list, right?
No.
Like that?
No.
That is
I didn't say it's true.
Argument.
No, I didn't say it's true because I said it's true. I gave you lots of examples and data of facts and all that.
You're misunderstanding what I'm saying. You're saying your list is the evidence.
No, I'm not saying that. What are you talking about? I never said that.
Of course you did, because the only thing you have to go by is your list.
No, I clearly. So I have to remind you.
Sorry, go ahead.
I have to remind you what I'm saying. I said to you, I'll give you a fast version so you can have time to follow up. I gave you a number of things based on my page. Then I said, throw my page out the window. You don't have to accept it. Go by other YouTube pages. Go by internet web pages. Go by TV.
That was on different subjects.
In other words, what I'm saying to you is, any part of the world you want to go by, my page, other pages, radio programs, TV programs, etc., the evidence is there.
Okay, you're generalizing many different points that you made, many of which I agreed with, right?
Why would you agree?
Why would the amount of bad opinions.
Why would you agree with me if you're saying I haven't proved it? Why would you agree with me?
I don't agree with that point. As I've said a million times, and you don't seem to hear me, right?
No, I'm listening to you. You're not getting it, man. If you're questioning my conclusions, there's no reason for you to agree with me.
I agree with points. I didn't agree with your conclusion that
so,
Jordan is one.
Okay, let me rephrase. I'll rephrase. Why would you agree with my points if you're not going to agree with my conclusions? My points are either valid or they're not.
Yes, they are. Some of them are valid.
Okay, so let's go by those ones. So you can't make it seem like I haven't proven anything because you've agreed with me on some things.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so
wait. No, you're making a leap. You're making a logical leap.
Okay.
You're saying I have made points that are true, and therefore my conclusion is true.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying to you, if you're saying to me before you laugh that I haven't proven anything, and I'm going by my criteria, and I'm going by my summary, you can't then say to me, "Well, I agree with you on some of those points."
Okay. That was my mistake. When I said you hadn't proven anything, I was talking specifically about the argument we were having at that moment about the size of the totality of soccer versus the size of the totality of basketball, size of the NBA versus the collection of the most powerful soccer leagues, a comparison of the fame of Michael Jordan to Cristiano Ronaldo. That's what I was saying you're wrong about.
Okay, so if you're going to say I'm wrong about
as I said, wait, okay. Let me finish the last line. what I still agree with you is possible is that Jordan fans in totality may have a list that is greater than Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi. However,
but you play both sides.
You
play both sides.
based on either what you said or the amount of research that I have done.
Okay,
that's all.
But at least when I gave you some points, I'm not basing it on one thing or two things or three things. I'm giving you a lot. Your points have basically been
11. You said 11.
No, hold on.
You gave me 11 points.
Those were examples, and even on some of those examples, you agree there were differences. But what I'm saying right now is, on some things, I did give you some facts, logic, reason, and common sense. But on your things, you have basically told me four things. One, well, I went to some polls, but I don't know if they're reliable or not. Two, if so many people...
You're not actually saying my conclusion.
I'm giving you summaries.
You're generalizing
I'm giving you summaries. Well, let me give you the summaries and you can dispute it.
I can summarize what I've said.
Okay, well, let me just give you the summaries first. The two was, if so many people are doing it, there must be some validity to it. Three, you straight up just disagreeing because I guess they spend more money, so it must be true with this. And four was assuming that people are working.
No. You are making.
Well, now I'm just rushing, so maybe I got that.
Than I made.
Huh?
You're making more conclusive statements than I made.
That's definitely true. I agree with that. That's definitely true.
I've simply said one thing, and one thing only.
Well, no, you said more than one.
Which is that there is evidence, which I was going to look up. I got one statistic of $727 million spent on a roster, which changes the economics of the team.
Well, how much do you think they spend on
the
NBA?
dynamics of the soccer league.
That doesn't prove anything. That doesn't prove anything.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying that doesn't prove anything. There's lots of leagues that spend lots of money.
I haven't been trying to prove that you are wrong. What I've been trying
what are you
to
doing?
prove
I don't
is that
understand.
you shouldn't have this certainty.
But
you shouldn't have this certainty that Jordan is
then
bigger than Cristiano Ronaldo.
Then if you don't think I should have this certainty, and you're disagreeing with me, and you're telling me why you think I'm wrong, then you are trying to prove why I'm wrong.
We have been talking, right? And I'm explicitly saying what we have been talking about and where I've disagreed with you, how I've disagreed with you, etc. And you're talking to me about the evidence when I explicitly said at that moment that I could go look something up. But before then, I told you exactly what I was basing it off.
I understand,
Various
and
I
am questioning you.
And my personal experience of those conversations.
Right, but that doesn't
take
mean
that seriously, or you cannot.
No, but that doesn't mean anything to me, because if I say I go by my personal experiences, you go by yours, nobody's wrong or right. If I say here's my polls and you go by yours, nobody's wrong or right. If you go by the bigger picture, someone is wrong and right.
But we haven't even gotten close to reaching a conclusion.
So what's the point? Are you blaming me for that? I'm just going by what you told me.
I haven't had any chance to go and find the data to back up my presuppositions. Okay, and if I came to the data and it was wrong, I would tell you I was wrong.
Okay,
but I haven't
that's fine. But I'm not questioning. I'm not questioning you.
You do not know the aggregate of all major soccer leagues.
I'm not questioning you for not giving me the data right now. It's okay if you need time to get it, but I am questioning you on two things. Why do you feel the need to keep the door open to these ridiculous hypotheticals when you know I know you're going to say that, and obviously I disagree, but if you know that you don't have it in front of you, which is okay, but you know there's no reason to think some of these things which you disagree on.
No, there is a reason.
Right, I said what you disagree on. I get it. I don't think you should A, come to these things where you leave the door open, and B, I don't think you're being consistent.
Okay. Let's put consistency aside.
All right.
I will leave the door open until I know if the fact is true or not.
Right? Okay.
You've not given me anything on the side of soccer, right? On the aggregate of major leagues, of how much soccer teams spend, on how much money goes into Cristiano Ronaldo. No,
I did give you something.
You have only said that about Michael Jordan.
Wait, don't know.
Do you understand?
Let me remind. Listen, man. Listen. You don't have to keep telling me. You don't have to keep telling me what I said. Let me remind you what I said. As you said to me earlier, I could just remember you said to me. I'll just tell you what I said. So now apply that to me. Let me just tell you what I said. You cannot say to me, I never did these things. Let me remind you some examples. You debated with me if soccer made if soccer made the most money or not, and I questioned you on that. I said
I didn't know what you meant by soccer. right? Like, are you talking about a specific league
I
versus the NBA?
said to
I
you,
believe you.
and I said
Because,
to, and I said to,
wait,
I
I
said
believe
to,
you
no, but I
that
said, no,
the
but
NBA makes more
no,
than
but no,
any single
no,
league.
but I said to you, it doesn't matter which league.
No, but if you aggregate those leagues, then suddenly you have value far surpassing
That's
the
your,
NBA.
that's, first of all, that's your belief. And secondly, you can
No,
do that for,
that's certain.
and secondly, you can do that for every sport in the world.
There is no other sport in the world that has both worldwide appeal and major institutions, major leagues in every country.
That's every country? Are you kidding me? Are you going to say
not every country, every continent?
Okay, well, that's factually not true.
That there aren't major soccer leagues in every continent?
No, that's not what you said. You said there's no other sport. Now, when I said that's not true, you went to soccer?
Oh, wait. You're questioning the idea of major, right? That's what this debate is about now?
Say it again. Say it again.
What is the classification of major?
No, I'm not. I'm saying you're saying there's no country that did such and such and such in all the world, and then you change it to continents, and I'm saying that's not true.
I misspoke.
Yeah, I know. Okay. I'm saying that's not true. I'm saying that's not true.
I got you. Data.
I got you. I'm saying that's not true.
Here's all I can say to you. Because while nothing you've said has been convincing, it is plausible,
just because it's not convincing to you doesn't mean it's not convincing. Like, for example, when you say to me when you say to me soccer people spend a lot of money, the most money, there's two problems with this argument.
I never said that.
Come on. You made the point that they can't make.
I never said soccer players spend the most money. I said soccer teams spend the most money on players.
Can I just clarify? You were saying about soccer, people can't make as much money because they spend the most on players. And what I'm saying to you didn't say that. What you're doing is
you're parsing together. No, you're parsing to get together different elements. I speculated, and if you'll rewind,
going by what you said.
What I said was that because teams spend more money on players, it means many times more money on players, that would reduce profits. That is what I said.
But that's common sense for anything in life. That's common sense for anything.
Yes, exactly.
No, but why would you?
You would apply that common sense, right?
But if you agree that's common sense for anything, why would you put it on soccer like it's particularly different from everything else?
Because it has no salary cap.
Okay, that's a silly argument because baseball didn't have a salary cap at one point. That doesn't mean that you would apply the same logic to baseball that you did to soccer.
Wait, I don't understand what you're saying. Baseball has no salary cap.
Let's try this. We were debating at one point if soccer, I know you said which soccer league, how popular it is, how much money it makes. And I was trying to tell you, it doesn't make the most money in the whole world. And you disagreed.
What doesn't?
Soccer
as a whole, I would disagree with you. You're saying soccer as a whole.
But let me finish what I was saying. At the time, this is what we were talking about. We don't have to get back into it right now. Just let me rehash what happened. And I was trying to say to you, it doesn't make the most money. And then you were saying, what do you mean by soccer?
It's important.
You're not.
If we were talking about the soccer,
you're not getting me. I'm not asking you to defend your argument now. I'm just going step by step what happened. At the time, you were saying...
You don't have to repeat it to me.
No, I do, because if you keep saying to me, I haven't made any convincing points, and I didn't say this, and I didn't do that, and I have to remind you.
You haven't made any convincing points.
No, you did. You did say that.
This isn't a convincing point. You haven't convinced me on this point.
You did say, for the arguments, that I didn't make any convincing point. But let's get past this.
No, I told you I agreed with you.
Okay.
What are you talking about?
But that's not the only thing you said. I believe you. I remember that you said you agree with me on some things. Yes, you are right. But that's not the only thing you said.
A collection of things.
Why do you have to remind me of things we're not disagreeing on? I'm talking about the things we disagree on.
That's what I'm saying. We disagree about a collection of points about the comparative size.
I understand. So let's go back to
soccer players and basketball players.
I'm going to try again. Let's go back to what happened. I won't take long. Go through these step by step here. Your disagreement was when I said soccer doesn't make the most money, you said, what do you mean by soccer? What league? And then I said any league. And then you were telling me, well, they can't make as much because they have no salary cap and they spend a lot on players. And then I said to you...
Also,
all right.
that there is no monopolized league that has all the superstar and best players in the world.
And
it doesn't exist.
That applies.
That's why they have a Champions League,
every
tournament.
That applies for every sport.
No, it doesn't. There is no league on the planet that can go and take a team that would be competitive with an NBA team.
Wait, that's not true.
No league on the planet.
That is not true. What are you talking about? You're just making things up again.
You're saying you could take a Greek team and you could bring them to the NBA, or you could take a Spanish team and bring them to the NBA, and they'd be competitive.
Do you need me to remind you of historical things that happened when
Wait,
other
are you talking
teams...
about the Olympics? Because I'm not talking about the best players. I'm talking about an average team in a league. They don't make nearly enough money to pay for the stars.
Okay, if you don't want to talk about the best of the best, which I find silly because the best of the best represent the best of the best, okay, fine, let's go to the...
But that's not... But that, we're talking about leagues.
Hang on. If you don't want to go by the best of the best, fine. There's lots of evidence of people.
It wouldn't make sense for your argument to go by the best of the best.
Your patience has gotten less as the time gone on. Just have a little more patience and listen to what I'm saying. If you're not going to go by the best of the best, fine. If you go by the players who are not the best of the best, there's plenty of examples where they can bang with NBA players.
They would. Okay, let's. I'm just not going to get into this. You're now being the contrarian.
How do you figure? I'm saying there's examples. That's not a contrarian point of view. It happened. It's a fact.
They get beat by 20 points in preseason games.
No, they don't all get beat. No, there's plenty of times when. Can I ask you? Do you believe that no other players who are not considered the best of the best? Do you believe they can't come to the NBA and do well, or be average, or be a bench player or something?
Of course they can. We're talking about bringing a team and having them play an entire season, right? And compete for the championship.
That's a stupid argument because that's not going to happen. No, that's a stupid.
That's what happens in soccer. That's what happens in soccer.
That's a stupid
argument. The best teams from around the world make a league and compete. That's not a stupid argument.
No, this is stupid. Well, let me tell you why it's a stupid argument. Because they don't.
You've gone so far off the plot.
No, I'm not. You're just trying very. No, I'm not. You're just trying very hard not to admit you're wrong in anything. You have a pride issue now.
Listen to me.
But I'm listening. One thing at a time. You said a lot. Can we go one at a time, please, Your Majesty? If you're saying to me, if you're saying to me, there's
you're a character.
No, you're a character. If you're saying to me,
I am a character.
Okay, well then don't be a character. Relax. If you're saying to me, no teams come and play against NBA teams and all that, that's a bad argument because they don't set it up like that for that to happen consistently.
Dude, you're making my point for me. My point is that soccer leagues are disanalogous with the NBA, and therefore your comparison.
Well, I'm going to say the same thing you said to me. Which soccer league? What are you talking about? What do you mean by soccer?
Exactly.
What do you mean exactly? I'm giving your argument against you. What are you talking about? It's your argument against you.
Because I've already made this argument.
Okay. So let's try this again. I don't think you understand what I'm. I don't think you understand what I'm saying. I know what you're saying. I'm hearing you. I don't think you get my side. What I'm saying to you is two things.
No, I don't think you're understanding.
No, I am. I'm trying to. You're just trying to over talk and not listen to a lot of things. Let's just relax a little bit here.
I've heard you every time.
Well, but then you're not addressing it. You're going to like all over the map. Just go one at a time here. If you're saying to me the NBA doesn't do these things, and you're saying to me, yes, this is why they don't do it, there's two problems. One, you can't use that as an argument because it's not set up that way. And two,
you used it as an argument.
Can I give you the 2 points, Your Majesty? And then the second part is, if you're gonna say,
I like that.
Okay, if you're gonna say, well, hey, because they don't set it up that way, that proves your point. It doesn't, because there's a million reasons why they don't do it that way. You're just assuming the reason is because they're not good enough.
Wait.
All right, I'm waiting.
Okay, let's rewind. All right, so that I can make my point clearer for you.
You do that.
The NBA, when you say the NBA is bigger than soccer, right?
I didn't say that, by the way.
When you say that basketball is bigger than soccer,
I didn't say that either, by the way.
Then what was your claim exactly?
Well, this was going back to earlier.
You were saying the NBA was.
Well, do you want me to tell you or not? Do you want me to tell you or no?
Yeah, go ahead.
We were going back earlier to different topics. There was 4 different topics. Should I tell you all 4 or no?
I understand that there were the different topics. I do.
But do you want me to remind you what they were so you can understand what I'm saying?
I want to understand.
I'll take that as a no. I'll take that as a no. So then, what I was saying at the time was for the topics we were talking about. How about that?
No, I would like to know what you're talking about when you compared the NBA to soccer as a platonic ideal.
So here's what I was saying. There were 4 things. Can I tell you all 4 or no?
If they have to do with what we're talking
about.
about.
So I can't tell you all 4? I'm telling you what they were. Do you want me to tell you or not?
Go ahead.
Okay.
I said go ahead.
So there were 4 things. 1 was, does soccer make the most money in the world? There was a dispute on that one. 2 was, when you were saying, what do you mean by soccer? I was saying, it doesn't matter what league. None of them make the most money. 3 was, yes, a lot of soccer is popular in lots of countries. Yes. But it's not as popular as you think it is in lots of countries. And 4 is, even if it's super popular, because it is, soccer is super popular, there are other sports that are just as popular or more popular. These were our disputes, basically, right?
Okay, well, I disagree with the last 2 points. The first 2 points, I was so unclear on what you meant by soccer because you wouldn't define your term. All you would say is pick any league. Okay, the NBA is bigger than any individual soccer league, but that doesn't represent soccer.
I have a disagreement with this.
That was my point.
I'll tell you why I don't buy that argument. I'll tell you why. When we were talking about basketball, whatever, baseball, hockey, whatever, other sports in general, there was no clear definition for those ones. So why do you have to have one for soccer?
Hockey has the Russian
and the
Canadian.
And 2, I did say to you that even if you go by any league, when you want to know what do you mean by soccer, or which league, I said any league. None of them make more money.
But that's an individual league. That's not how soccer functions.
Okay, so if you want to talk about non-leagues and just totality of sports, you have 2 problems. 1, there's no way to measure it if you don't have any defined definition. And
let's
pick
I
said there was 2. I said there was 2 points. I said there was 2 points here. I said there was 2 points. And 2, even if you can't have a defined definition, that's okay, because the other problem you're going to have is, let's say you show me, look, they play soccer. They play it here. They play it there. What does playing have to do with measuring which is more popular and money and, I don't know, watching it on TV
you
and all
were talking about money. I said profit. Let's take the 10 largest soccer leagues and the 10 largest basketball leagues and compare their total profits.
Now I got to ask. Well, first of all, you didn't say that. But if you're saying that now, I want to ask you, why 10?
No, I
why
didn't
not
say
11?
that before. I'm saying that now.
Why not 11?
Let's pick 20. Let's pick 30.
Why not 21? Why not 22?
Let's pick every single soccer league and basketball.
And that's what I was saying. And that's what I was saying earlier. No matter what league you go by, there's no proof that they make the most money.
If you go to the totality of soccer, it's going to be more than basketball.
Well, you'd have to prove that to me.
Okay. Well, are we talking another time about Michael Jordan?
It's your call. You set him up. I'll knock him down. By the way, just use some common sense here. If 2 kids are playing soccer on a playground and they also play basketball on a playground, how do you define which one is more popular?
What? This has nothing to do. That's such an abstract question. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
How can you say it's absurd? I mean, are you not smart? If 2 people play soccer and 2 people play basketball, and you apply that logic to other 2 people here and other 2 people there and other 2 people here, how do you know which one is more popular?
In general, they do so through polling, and now they're using other metrics.
Polling.
Right?
Are you listening to yourself?
Social media impressions.
Are you listening to yourself? Polling. You're going to ask people.
You just interrupted me, man.
Yeah. You're against interruptions now? You're going to play victim? You never interrupted me then?
I'm not playing victim at all.
You've never interrupted me. You've never interrupted me at all.
It seems no, I have. I'm saying if it's a concern.
So what's the point of telling me I'm interrupting you if you interrupt me? We're both interrupting each other. Go ahead, Your Majesty.
What are you doing, man? Were talking.
I'm just reacting to the way you're acting. I'm trying to react. I'm reacting to the way you're acting.
We're cool. We're talking. We're fine.
Okay, that's great. Well, then I'm glad everything is good. Okay, so you shouldn't have to make an issue out of nothing. Then go ahead, continue.
No, it's just you're starting to call. You kept saying Your Majesty. I just didn't understand what
that was. And you
was.
laughed and you said you liked it. So do you not like it now?
Wait, what'd you say?
You laughed and you said you liked it. So do you not like it now?
No, I just am trying to get the meaning because it seemed more and more pointed.
Well, okay. So if you don't get the meaning, then I'll explain.
I would like to apologize.
Well, thank you. Then I apologize too. If you want to know the meaning, I'll explain it to you. As time passed, I'm not saying you were shouting and cussing and being rude and all. No, but you were doing like little negative things here where you were kind of. I'm not saying attacking. Attacking sounds too strong. Passive aggressive stuff from you, like telling me I'm making absurd. Well, let me explain.
I don't know exactly what
Well,
you're talking about.
let me explain. Well, let me explain. You were doing things. I'm not basing this off one thing. I'm not sensitive, but you were doing things where you're saying this is absurd. You haven't made any good arguments. You were laughing at me and so on. It's a bunch of things.
I did not say you didn't make any
okay,
good arguments.
Can I just can are you against?
I said I did not agree with you, and then I clarified what
Are
I
you
was
against?
agreeing.
Are you? You're interrupting me now. So I'm trying to show you. I'm trying to show you. I'm trying to show you a pattern. Don't focus. Even if you think I misrepresented you on that part, look at the pattern of what you've done. If you laugh at me and you say I made absurd arguments, which you disagree, you said that, fine.
Well,
or you say, or you make it seem like I haven't made any good points, and so on. These are passive aggressive things that I didn't do. I didn't do these. I didn't do these things to you until you started doing these things to me. And then another thing that you did, you became less patient. You had more. You had more interruptions. You weren't taking in all the information, all that. I'm not offended. I'm addressing what you brought up. It seems like you're offended. You're the one who brought it up first. Remember, you talked about interruptions.
I was asking what the meaning of your saying.
No. You did more than that. When you say,
and then you said, and it became more pointed.
When you say things like, "Why are we doing this?" or "Hey, we were cool," or "Hey, what's the meaning of this?" and all that, you're clearly offended. So don't tell me I'm offended. I'm just following up to what you brought up. I'm not offended. Just so you know, I'm following up to what you brought up.
I feel like this is.
I'm telling you, I'm not offended.
Am I tone wrong?
I'm not offended.
I'm just trying to have fun, man.
I'm not offended. I'm following up to what you brought up. If anyone's offended, you're offended. And I'm not saying your tone is bad, and that's it.
Okay, I'm not saying you're offended. I'm not saying that. Okay.
Well, you were saying. That.
Okay.
Well, you were saying that. And by the way, I'm not going by your tone only. I'm going by a whole pattern. You're not good with patterns, man. A lot of you Michael Jordan fans are not good with the whole picture. You guys cherry pick things, go whatever you want.
Okay? Can we slow down and talk about the general pattern concept?
Right. Okay.
Excuse me, I couldn't hear you.
All right. Okay.
Are you walking somewhere?
No, I'm here. I'm saying okay. All right. Go ahead.
Okay, so I would like you to interrupt me when I'm getting things completely wrong, right? So you have been making a couple different arguments, right? The original argument was that, it's conceptually impossible to make an argument that Michael Jordan is the best player of all time. That was your first argument, right?
I don't remember what my first one was, but that is true. It's no fact to prove it, if that's what you're saying.
Okay. And then your second argument was talking about the tenor and character of NBA fandom, or of Jordan fandom. That was your second.
I don't remember which is second, but I'm saying that they're the worst sports fans of all time, if that's what you mean.
Yes, they are, and that Jordan fans are the worst fans of all time.
That's right.
And then the third thing that we got to, which I think has gotten us really sidetracked and has created a lot of misunderstanding for both of us, is this argument.
I don't think I have any misunderstandings.
Soccer and Cristiano Ronaldo. What?
I don't think I have any misunderstandings. I'm listening to you loud and clear. I'm paying attention to you.
Okay. What? Oh, okay. Cool.
In fact, there's been plenty of times where you'll say that you missed what I said, or you missed the point, or you didn't hear me or something, which is okay. I'm not knocking you, but I'm listening to everything. I got everything. I'm paying attention then. If we're interrupting each other, I might have missed something.
The reason why I said that, I'll explain the reason why I said that. When you draw a conclusion about what I'm saying, right, about soccer and why I hold the door open, because that was your term, right? Hold the door open?
Right.
Okay. Why I hold the door open, and also why the NBA and saying soccer as an ideal or saying soccer as a specific individual league is disanalogous and is very difficult to argue. The NBA versus a single soccer league is a meaningful metric for valuing how popular either the sport or a specific player is. That was my argument.
Okay, but you're forgetting something. At that time, you weren't doing the same thing for the other leagues. You weren't saying, well, what do you mean by basketball, hockey, baseball, and so on? You didn't say what leagues. You just accepted it. But with soccer, you were particularly saying, what do you mean by soccer? What league?
Because of the context.
Hang on. And then I even said to you, it doesn't matter what league because there is no soccer league that makes more money. And then you skipped over that too, and you started telling me.
I would agree with. I would assume you were right.
And then you started.
If I didn't say
but
that
at the time you didn't.
I would assume that you were right.
At the time, you didn't act like that. Now you're saying that at the time you didn't act like that.
And the reason why I didn't act like that.
Well, there's more.
Can I explain why I didn't act like that?
But there's more.
Because I don't think that.
I mean, I pretty much waited for you, but okay, go ahead.
No, I just want to clarify that because of the disanalogy, which I was trying to explain throughout repeatedly, and you didn't accept as a premise, between a soccer league and the NBA.
I get it, right? And I had an answer for that too. I had an answer for that too, but at the time we were stuck on some other things. For example, you would say things like soccer franchises can't make the most money because they have no salary cap and they spend a lot on players.
No.
That's what you were saying. It's very clear you're saying
things
that.
That were said specifically in a back and forth, right? Like you were talking about why is it that a soccer league would make less than an NBA league? And I listed as one factor.
First of all, when you said it to me, you didn't. I'm not saying I thought that was your only factor. I'm sure you had more, but when you said it to me, you made it seem like you weren't trying to establish that's one factor. You were trying to say they can't do it because of this, and then what I was trying. Well, hang on. And then what I was trying to hang on. Hang on. And then what I was trying to tell you was there's plenty of other leagues that spend a lot of money and they make a lot of money. And I also said to you that it's peanuts. I said to you, if they make billions and they spend like $11 million on a player or millions of dollars on players, that's peanuts compared to the total price. And I also said to you, why would they spend more money if they know they can make more money? And then I also said to you one last thing. I had more, but I'll just for right now, one last thing. I also asked you, why don't they learn from other teams who spend less and make more? Because remember I said to you, there's plenty of other leagues, teams that they spend less and they make more money?
No. I got to correct you on one thing. Top teams make an enormous amount of money. Bottom teams make very little money. They are spending money to make money, right?
All teams are spending money to make money. All teams spend money to make money.
They are unable to spend that money.
They don't make as much. All teams spend money to make money. They're all in it for the money.
No, but they can't spend as much money. Crystal Palace has no means of spending $727 million on players whose names are known around the world.
Okay, well,
do you understand?
No, I understand, but that doesn't change anything.
It does change things because if the league is composed of 4 major teams and the rest are smaller teams, right? That make less. Sorry, my baby was just handed to me. And the rest are smaller teams, and those bigger teams are competing with bigger teams in other leagues. You have a different composition of how money flows and functions in soccer than it does in NBA.
I'm not saying there's no. I'm not saying there's.
Let me finish. We're all 30.
Well, you interrupted me earlier.
In the world are in one league.
But I'm not saying that's not true ever. But that doesn't change anything because at the same time, a league can still make way more money than they spend. It's still peanuts, and there's plenty of teams who are lower teams that spend less money and make a lot of money, and so on. You're simplifying things. You're simplifying things way too simply.
It's not the same scale as an NBA team or as
even if it's not the same scale. But you're simplifying everything in the world for sports way too simply.
No, I think you're simplifying things.
No, I'm not. How can you say I'm simplifying? I'm literally telling you it's not that simple. There's more to it, and you're telling me I'm simplifying.
No, because why I say that is because you're not accepting the complexity of how soccer functions.
I am. That's why I'm saying it's not that simple.
What?
I am. That's why I'm saying it's not that simple.
But at every point you argue against this complexity. Whenever I bring up a point,
what's your complex? No, wait, you're complex. You're not even that complex. You're saying one of your factors. I haven't
had the opportunity to.
Hold on. Let's not.
Go ahead.
Don't play victim. Okay, don't say you didn't have the opportunity. You've been on the phone for a long time. You got plenty of time. You made lots of points. You've interrupted. Don't tell me that you didn't get a chance or anything. Like I'm not being fair to you. So
I didn't say you were being unfair. That is on me that I didn't. I'm not blaming you.
On this phone call, more than once, I've asked you, are you like, I've questioned you, like, are you blaming me? And you'll say, no, I'm not blaming you. Do you understand when you say these things, it can be taken by the audience that you're pointing the finger at me or something like that?
Wait, in what case? What are you
All
referring
right,
to?
let's just skip past this. I mean, it's the same topic we're talking about. Now, I don't want to rehash what happened.
Yeah, of course.
Let's just go back to
If I did not explain
let's just
myself, they
continue.
can take
Let's
it
just
any way they
continue
want
to what we're going to. So let's. I mean, I'm pretty sure you know how people can take things differently. I don't know why you're playing innocent, like you have no idea what I'm talking about. But let's continue the topic.
No, I wanted to know, like,
the topic for
well,
soccer.
sorry.
The topic for soccer. So when it comes to soccer, it's not that simple. A team can still make a lot of money and spend a lot.
Absolutely.
Baseball, the Dodgers, they just had $1 billion contract with a Japanese Asian player. $1 billion contract.
I know.
And okay, and there's plenty of other examples in other sports in smaller markets. A Seattle team would spend like a lot of money on a player. Lots of people can spend the money. They can make the money. They don't have to. They don't have to do these things, but they choose to for different reasons. But that. Hello? Hey, please subscribe. And if you disagree with me on something, you can go on my program and show me your facts on whatever you disagree on. If you want to go on, let's set it up. Send me an email. The email is right there in the description section. Thank you.